Oh, okay, so I thought.
We're live, folks.
Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight to present for our curriculum, and Dr. Kajkowski is going to go ahead and get us started, and then the entire admin team is going to go through all of the slides. And when you're presenting, the admin team, you can just introduce the group of people that you have here with you when it's your turn. Okay, Crystal, you're up.
So basically what we're doing today is we're going to talk about all of our instructional systems that we have with the alignment as well as progressions across all grade levels. And then we're going to focus on what our current structure is right now, and then like how the scheduling and the structure impacts our student opportunities. So basically we're really focusing on MTSS, the TDA, which is our writing progression. We're talking about support services, and then secondary structures as well as scheduling context. We'll start with Mrs. Willoughby with special education.
So I wanted to start out just highlighting the growth of our autistic support program at the elementary level about 18 months to 2 years ago. So back in 2024, I brought a proposal to you establishing or asking to establish an autistic support program at the elementary level. With your support and approval, we did begin the process of establishing that program. Based on the immense needs of a program like that, we did partner with the CSIU and their educational consultant. She does continue to come into the classrooms, both the autistic support program at the elementary school and the life skills support classroom at the elementary school. She does provide us with training opportunities, observations, anything we really ask. It's a nice partnership. Based on the recommendation from the educational consultant, we did send 3 members of the autistic support program to attend a 3-day training, excuse me, specifically focused on teaching students with autism or other developmental disabilities. This training is also a prerequisite to the Autism Initiative, which I hope to establish and be a part of in the upcoming school year. The Autism Initiative is an application process. So I am waiting. It's actually this week. The application should go out. It's Wednesday, but I haven't seen it yet. So hopefully I get that in my email shortly. I will contact Emily though to follow up. But as a part of the initiative, we do have on-site coaching. We have opportunities for trainings and technical assistance. This, though, is a 3-year commitment. And of course, the commitments are kind of laid out in those years. If you want me to read anything from that slide, I can.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So that would be resources district-wide for autism, correct?
For the initiative? Yep. So year 1 is establishing that core classroom. So we have to choose a classroom that is part of that initiative. And then year 2 starts to roll it out into other settings of the school district. Absolutely. So it doesn't just cover autistic support per se, it will cover other areas as well.
I just wondered if there becomes a need for an autistic support in the middle school, would they help get that?
Correct. So we do have to establish an internal coach. And part of that internal coach's responsibility is to see the initiative through even beyond the 3 years. So that will hopefully be established after year 3.
And one more question about the autism support classroom right now. I know we said what we know about the kids who are transitioning, it's not going to be like this year or we have so many heavy hitters, but what type of headroom do we have in that classroom before we're maxed out?
So typically you max out at 8. We have, I'm just thinking, I spoke with Liza at the IU today. She has 1 that she says is a heavy hitter. So we do have, somebody who will definitely be pushing into that classroom. And that will put us at, well, it depends. That'll put us at about 6.
Okay.
Go ahead, sorry. Moving on to the Teach Town curriculum. I know that this was purchased, oh, sorry.
It's the way it's presented. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
excuse me. I know this curriculum was purchased this summer, I believe, and rolled out at the beginning of the school year. So it is a very significant component in the special education department. This curriculum was definitely crafted to ensure that all students had access to general education curriculum K-12. So I was very excited to see it through. Three main aspects. Oh, sorry. I just talked otherwise. Three main aspects of the curriculum, though, are that it is K-12 aligned. So it is, it does see our children through the entirety of their schooling here, which I think is very important. It's evidence-based, which means that the methods are proven to work in the classroom. So we have confidence behind our teachers teaching. What you'll see in the next slides are some quotes, some firsthand experiences from teachers, and some different accounts that they have. So our teachers have worked through understanding the curriculum over the course of the first couple weeks of school. It is very cumbersome. There's a lot to look at, a lot to learn, but what they have been exposed to, they are overall pleased with the product, and they're very happy with what it provides. It allows our teachers to access physical materials that they sent to us, online progress monitoring of individual student goals, and interactive teaching opportunities. On the left, you can see the standard alignment of each lesson, which is super important. They also provide links to each lesson. And then, of course, the score on the other side is your student data in real time. On the right-hand side, you see a graph that shows student mastery. And again, this is in real time, so it's very beneficial to our teachers. At the secondary level, at the secondary level, I wish I had control. There are components. It's next slide. Yes,
Let's go next slide.
Sorry about that. Okay.
How about you say next slide?
I just expect it to go. Sorry. At the secondary level, there are components built in specifically for the transition needs of each student. That's very important because federally we need to abide by transition needs of our students. Again, it's a great way to connect what teachers are using directly into student IEPs and learning objectives. So in those pictures, what you see are some of those physical materials that the teachers have been given. I know it looks like, oh, it's just a whiteboard and a blow up globe, but it's very important. They come with the curriculum. They were given to all of our teachers, and they tie directly into the lessons that are then presented later. Next slide. Oh, I'll talk first. Finally, I wanted to provide you with a very brief clip. It is not anything elaborate. Don't worry, I won't bore you. It's like 11 seconds of how Teach Town is being used in the classroom. What this highlights is the ease of use of this program and the active engagement of the students. I did not record any of the students, but what you won't see that is kind of behind the scenes are about 8 to 10, if my memory serves me right, students who are actively engaged, sitting in their seat, listening to Mrs. Jones, who is highlighted here. So, roll.
In history. Having seen the first one. Well, guess what? We're gonna watch the trailer right now for the second one. 333 billion. Let me go to that number.
Again, I know it was very quick, but it's very meaningful what she was doing. Like I said, the students were actively engaged, and it was awesome to see it in action. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
This was great to see. When our previous special ed director brought us this unbudgeted $75,000 curriculum, it made me sweat a little bit, even for somebody who understands the importance of it. So I really appreciated when I was reviewing the deck earlier, seeing the teacher slides. Is there an opportunity for these teachers to have training over the summer to be able to be more impactful with this next year?
So I need to look further into that. I know that Teach Town offers online trainings. I don't know how in-depth they are. So I do have to explore that a little more. Some of the teachers have asked for further training as well.
And I think, Bree, when we had purchased this, that was one of the pieces of the puzzle with it, was that the trainings were extensive and expensive, more expensive than the program already was. And when I had talked to the person when we purchased it, they had said a lot of it is just using it and getting more familiar with it. And then as you go, have questions. So there are opportunities for us to work with some people to ask questions to. But if we want specific trainings, then they are at an additional cost. But they did recommend kind of using it for a year first and then reaching out and seeing what pieces maybe are missing. So that will kind of be a next phase in this process.
Yeah, it would be good to think about while we're working on the budget. We think there's going to be a need for training that'll cost money, doesn't it?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so our next one is our text dependent analysis process that we started K through 8. We have Melissa Nugent, who is at Danville, who has helped us through this program of hers that she developed. And it really is an intentional progressive program. Everyone from K through 8 is starting it this year with, and as it's growing from year to year, we'll be adding more to it. So really, basically why it works and why we decided was because of there's no instructional gaps. It leads the students to writing independently, as well as it does have a shared progression throughout the grade levels. So really, this is how we go from foundational level in K through 12, just basically understanding the basics of what we're expecting of them. By grade 3 to 5, we're looking at some structured analytic writing. We're having them find power words and using organizers and trying to develop why things are happening in the writing. And then by 6th and 8th grade, they're using thesis statements, getting multiple claims, as well as they're citing text evidence. So again, this is a progressive model that we're using for our text dependent analysis. And it will take us a couple years to get through it and make sure it's working efficiently. But we're off to a really good start. We had 3 vertical alignment meetings, and our English teachers have been doing a fantastic job with their organizers, trying to get the students in the habit of understanding what's expected of them. So it's really progressing very well. And then lastly, we have 3 core pillars of this process is really our materials and our process and our components, and then the collaboration. So as you can see, we focus highly on what the student materials look like, and this is consistent through K through 8, that all students have folders. They're making a writing portfolio that will pass on from year to year of just the essential good writing pieces, just to show growth. Then we're making sure that they're using their organizers, using checklists, and they're doing summary annotations for every text that they are reading. And then obviously we have the collaboration with our vertical alignment, and then our grade level teams are really focusing on what should be the next steps for the next higher grade, as well as the grade below them.
Crystal and principals, what kind of teacher feedback are you getting after a semester? Because I know there was some skepticism at the beginning of the year. I knew things were hard. So have you gotten any kind of feedback about this?
Yeah, so they're growing into it. They're growing into it. Just like anything new, it takes a minute to get used to how things are supposed to work, and with all the materials, and we're talking about annotating in the text for every text. So they're growing into it. Piece by piece, we're getting better, and we're doing a better with those 3 different vertical alignments. We had a great opportunity to share what each grade level is doing, and then they were adapting based off what every other grade level was doing. So it was really, they were really working collaboratively to create these organizers so that the students are getting that consistency all the way up.
Yeah, and I do have some input from Mrs. Kozlowski. She kind of spearheaded collaboration at the middle school and got all the input from the teachers. And she mentioned just that. She said during the summer, we met together for sample graphic organizers and implementation with Melissa Nugent. And they've been using the suggested organizers with fidelity, with some modifications to make it a little more grade level appropriate, or maybe they'd have to scaffold and ease some of the other components of those organizers in at a later point. And they just focused on vocabulary, transitions, the sentence starters, just to kind of facilitate in those emerging writers that we want to create in the middle school. Also, they collaborated, all 5 through 8 teachers did collaborate to create a unified graphic organizer aligned with the model shared by Mrs. Nugent, which is good that we're taking it and owning it and building our own off of that. And 7th and 8th grade are using a modified version more tailored to where they're at. And I know they're using the Commonlit platform as well. So they've tried to really integrate, the TDA, Melissa Nugent, and then what they're doing in the Commonlit. So that's just the general status at the middle school and some of the input. Generally, it's pretty favorable.
Feedback I got from the high school is pretty favorable to everybody I spoke to, especially in the English department. They said it was a fairly easy transition just because they've done components of this previously, just never in the full gamut from beginning, middle to end in a structured format like this. So they've done components. So it's just putting it all together now in this structured processes. So it's going very well.
And something new to add on to that we really got from this whole TDA experience has been the individual student conferences. That is something that we haven't really done in the past. And I know that is something that Melissa has really urged our team, and they see the benefit. I know it's very time consuming, but that personalized feedback and that time, even if it's 5 minutes at your desk, talking, discussing, analyzing, providing feedback in the moment, has really helped strengthen the writing of our students at the middle school.
Indicate a need for additional PD, or do they feel like they just need an opportunity to use the training method?
I think from the elementary, I'll say it's a combination of both. It was evident though, really this past summer, we needed to make a change with writing. I only have 1 grade to look at in the elementary with 4th grade when we look at our PSSAs, but we have a bunch of great kids. When their TDAs are scored by the state, they should be scoring a 4 out of 4. In my opinion, and we didn't have any 4s last year or the year prior to that or the year prior to that in the elementary school. So I'm only looking at 4th grade. But if that's component is huge on that assessment. And if we increase our scores just to half of our students get a 3 or a 4 on the PSSAs. Our 4th grade ELA PSSA scores would be drastically different. Last year, I think we had 6 students out of the class that earned a 3. That means everybody else earned a 2 or lower. So I think at first, and still probably even still now, there obviously is some uncertainty in the elementary building. It's a high level of rigor, but that's what we want. And I understand that can cause maybe anxiety or stress, but it's about pushing our kids, and it's about being self-reflective as a professional, and wanting to make that change, because it's going to allow our kiddos to grow and really be able to achieve their own individualized potential that I don't think we've been doing a good enough job with in the writing aspect of it. So yes, it's impressive for me as a parent to see my 1st grade son writing like 3 sentences because I wouldn't think he would write 3 sentences. And I see him doing it on a weekly basis now for their short writing pieces they have to do. And they'll be working towards probably a little bit more, of that, until the end of the school year. So the level of rigor, it's there at the elementary level, and it's definitely pushing our staff, but it's pushing our kiddos as well, and I think it's good.
One of the things that Melissa Nugent has said to me is that she welcomes anyone to reach out to her. She will stay late to do Zoom meetings with them or anything that she can. one thing that was really great that I had done with her in the past is she actually came in and taught a lesson in my previous district, which was really good. Unfortunately, due to her job now, she can't do that, but she is willing for our staff to come and watch her teach. So that is something I know that some of Mike's teachers have brought up that they would be interested to go and do. So I think that's kind of the next piece and the next level of this, Bree, is to continue that. But I do think you gain a lot watching someone else teach a TDA, especially if it's not an area that you're confident in. Having Melissa come in and do it for all of us, it was great to just see how she handled it, and the teachers gained a lot of knowledge. So I think there's definitely a next step in the process there.
We're seeing the comprehensiveness of this program that we do have to recognize that we only get 5,000 characters on the online test. So we're trying now to take our big full TDA and bring it down to 5,000. So it really is having the students focus on what is the significant part of their writing and to eliminate the fluff. And so this is really eye-opening for a lot of us, this process, but our teachers are doing a great job of managing that, trying to figure out how best. So they're doing a really great job in these vertical alignment meetings that I keep having with them. Any other questions on TDA? This is the last slide for that.
So before I get started, I have Mrs. Gum here tonight for the elementary, Miss Ludwikowski and Mrs. Singley. Mrs. Singley is our MTSS coordinator for anybody that doesn't know. Miss Ludwikowski is our intervention specialist, and Mrs. Gum is our coordinator of student services. Or a lot of times I refer to her as like my assistant principal in the elementary. So this is the team that I brought forward here tonight. This is just an overview of what our core curriculums are. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about the first one up there. Our SABIS or Envision Math, K-4, which we've had it for several years now, into reading for our reading ELA, which once again, we've had for a couple years, but this is the first year with the new version of it. And then Mystery Science, which we adopted last year for 3rd and 4th grade, and I believe 5th grade in the middle school. But we've gone ahead and rolled that down for the whole elementary building for this year. As I mentioned back probably in the summer, at a public meeting at some point in time, it's about creating consistency in our tier 1 instruction and really believing that is a gap that we've had in the past. And it's definitely not fixed now, but I think we're in a much better place now compared to where we were in years past. And when Mrs. Shupp came on board probably about a year ago at this point in time, as a special ed director at that point in time, that was one thing that her and I talked at length about throughout the spring, was about the inconsistency and why does our data look the way it looks. We also, as I know probably all the board members know, but anybody out there that might be listening possibly, we did receive the Project Aware grant through the CSIU, which allowed us to really expand our MTSS process, which we'll get there here a couple slides down the road. But we have somebody on board full-time, well, not full-time, but designated to our school 2 days a week through the IU, working with Mrs. Singley specifically to grow our intervention system that we've really taken a strong initiative in growing to build to help limit those academic gaps. But the biggest thing that the IU pointed out to us from like day one was that our tier 1 instruction, that's where we really have an issue with the skewed data because they're looking at data from across our IU. That's what their thoughts were. That's what Mrs. Shupp's thoughts were. I thought that, but I didn't really know it. But then once I had her come in and us, talking, it became that this is definitely the issue. So first was getting those resources used on a daily basis. And I feel we've done that. Could they be used more and dug into deeper, and could more PD be, used to help to grow that? Absolutely. But we're using it. So now the next step is getting each grade to be consistent with how each individual class uses it, on a daily basis to help try to limit those gaps that we're seeing. And I know we've talked about it before, but I'll just re-reference it, that it's not going to happen overnight, that this is going to be a process, but I believe we're taking some big strides in the right direction.
Is there a vibe yet with this mystery science? And maybe Mrs. Gum will have some insight. And do we like it? Do we feel like we have enough time in the elementary for science with the new steel standards? Are we worried about PSSAs?
Yeah, so the agreement that we had K-2 was that, and I should say 1 and 2, that it'd be like 2 days a week they would have a science lesson, which is pretty much more than what they were getting in the past. And kindergarten would sprinkle things in as, the year went on. I specifically observed a 2nd grade class the other day, last week, and that teacher is on our science team. And they talked about how they talked very highly of the program. Mrs. Furman or Mrs. Madden, they have not shared anything negatively with me. And Mrs. Spots, who teaches 4th grade science, currently the same thing, has not shared anything as far as a negative aspect. I know I did do one walkthrough over in the middle school earlier this year, and Mrs. Combe, she was, it was evident that she was using it in her 5th grade science classroom. Mrs. Gum, do you have anything that you have to add, didn't like last year? For the public, Mrs. Gum taught 4th grade science last year.
So teaching mystery science last year, I actually really enjoyed using it just as that model of the standards, the steel standards, and it helped to organize the hands-on. That's what the steel standards are, is the hands-on explorations regarding the content, and it allowed me to focus on providing that hands-on experience for the kiddos. It is tough time-wise, I'm going to say, within the 30 to 35 minute. I'm not sure, Mike, what is your block for 5th grade?
About an hour.
So I could see it being better there. So our lessons generally did take longer to get through in the elementary building, but the kids were so excited, I think, doing it last year. You could see that they were really engaged in the content rather than just listening to content, which I think then helped to, progress them further and prepare them for the PSSAs.
And it came down to, in my opinion, like we needed to provide our students with a foundation. The feedback that I got from the science teachers was that students were coming into, when PSSA had science tested in 4th grade, they were coming there and they didn't have a foundation at all. So everything was new really from the beginning of the year. So that became the emphasis last year for me, of having a specific science person in 3rd and 4th grade to allow them to hopefully build on the new steel standards, which we're going to be tested on with standardized tests. So they had a better grasp for when they got there. Now, obviously moving to 5th grade, it's the same thing. I want to be able to send our 4th grade class over to 5th grade next year, and Mrs. Coombe be able to look at them and be like, hey, these kiddos have a foundation. We don't have to do a month's worth of work and then try to cram it into where we need to start in 5th grade. So is it the perfect thing? I'm sure it isn't. But it's definitely a better starting point than what we had in the past.
I get a lot of feedback, good feedback, through my vertical alignment meetings with science, and they agree that it's time consuming, but yet it's plug and play. You pull it out, match the standard, it goes. This year I got every grade level for every kid a kit for every lesson that they have. So it really does, there's zero prep. They pull out, it comes even in vacuum sealed bag. Like it's color coded. It's really well presented. And so they appreciate that with the amount of time that they have for science, that they can literally open the drawer, pull it out. They have the supplies. Now that STEEL standards are phenomena based, it's all hands-on learning. So to get that in, they do have to take a couple sessions to finish.
One thing that really impressed me from the middle school aspect is it really takes science beyond like memorization. It's really the application. I just actually observed, before all the snow chaos hit, a really good lesson in Mrs. Coombe, and it was a topography, water table, identify the best location, what your rationale and reasoning behind it. It really took students, it required them to collaborate. It just was really good. It analyzed as well. So really hands-on. And it really is aligned well to the STEEL standard. So I find a lot of value.
And they're going to be looking at more of those questions on the PSSAs. It's going to be more than the memorization. It's going to be more than the knowledge. It's going to be the higher level blooms that they have to be able to apply and know how to do certain things in science to be able to do successful in their PSSAs.
And then Brandon, just for the new board members, will you explain what win time is in fourth grade?
Sure. So win time is basically stands for what I need. So really looking at the whole child. So does a kiddo needs a little bit of extra homework time at school because maybe they lack that structure when they leave here? So we need to provide that for them, and maybe they need a little bit more math or ELA help here. So it just provides a couple more minutes during the day where those kiddos can get that help that they need. It is aligned this year. It's all at the end of the day. So it's a way, I think that's a great time because a lot of kids are done by the end of the day. So it allows them to kind of get a little brain break and refocus on whatever they need to focus before they leave for today. And for those kiddos that do or struggle in maybe a particular area, it's a way to kind of relieve a little bit of that stress before they either one, go to the cafeteria for a parent pickup or an adult pickup, or they go and get on a bus or a van to go home. So that's what win time is. Last year we were able to, and I don't know, the stuff's messed up there with how it's presented up there. But last year we were able to actually have the same time slot in third grade. It just didn't work great this year, as well as I heard a large need from third grade saying they felt that they needed some more ELA time, which that time came out of ELA is how I created it last year. So the ELA teachers were very thankful that we're able to work that time back in there, but it's something that, I'll continue to evaluate. Just a breakdown of time, and obviously there's some different time in the class meeting part, and there's obviously a difference in time there. Basically it's SEL, so it's our school curriculum that we've rolled out this year. That's where that's getting done for kindergarten, first and second grade. They have a little bit more time because the expectation is that the teacher will do some kind of short lesson in there as well. Third and fourth grade, they're doing their mood checker, and then they're getting on with their day. And then Miss Lewikowski is the primary one in the elementary level who's spearheading then those kiddos that might be flagged for, having a rough night, or they're asking to chat with somebody or whatever. Then she's making sure that those kiddos are met with throughout the day to meet their needs from that end, because the data shows and we know that if a kid's struggling socially and emotionally, then we're not going to get out of them what we want to get out of them academically. We need to make sure those needs are met first and taken care of. So then they can walk into that ELA classroom and be focused on what they need to do academically. Is there any questions with anything that's up there?
I think that didn't come out at all.
And obviously, I didn't have any recess time or lunch time, anything like that up there.
You took that away this year.
Took it all away.
I have a more general question. I'll hold it. It applies here, but it applies to middle school too.
Okay.
Okay, so hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be able to explain to you all the things we've done in the past year and a half with MTSS. I think we've made a lot of progress, a lot of growth, and, hopefully, I can explain it and give it the due justice that it deserves. Just a little background. MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered System of Supports. And really, this graphic's perfect because it explains that really it's like an umbrella over the whole child. And it's our way of making sure that kids get what they need, how they need it, to the level that they require. The different areas that we kind of cover are social emotional, academic, behavior, attendance, and then all of this is kind of tied in with a partnership with the families. So with all of that being said, we can go to the next slide. Our goal is to identify and attempt to lessen or eliminate barriers to student learning. So like Mr. Tra just said, we know if a kid is coming in with just a lot of social emotional needs or whatever it is, they're not going to be, necessarily ready to sit down at a desk and learn for 6 hours. That we need to be able to kind of dissect what they need and take an approach where we're hitting each spot the way we need to help them be as successful as they can during the school day. So the process, the way it's written is a little misleading because it's not necessarily linear. We are taking, like you can see, data collection is one of the things there. We're collecting data all the time. So that's not necessarily the third step in the process. But basically what happens is if we have a teacher who has been, watching a kid, observing a kid, collecting data on a kid, and they're realizing that, maybe this student needs a little bit more support in one or more of those areas. What they'll do is they'll put in a referral that we have created with the CSIU MTSS coach that has been coming and helping us. And the referral is, I feel it's kind of nice because it's like a one-stop shop. So any need, whether it be social, emotional, behavior, academic, even speech referrals, OT, PT, the teacher can put that into the referral form and then I get it. So then I can kind of direct it in the place where it needs to go, which I feel is nice because it kind of keeps everything nice and tidy that way. Again, data
Jesse's not giving herself enough credit here. This form has been tweaked since the time I got here in January to the form that was used to her sitting down and going through it again and again and saying, I don't think we're hitting everything, to the IU coming in and saying we got to reshape this, to then more eyes looking at it saying we have to reshape it. So I feel like we finally have a form, and I think that the teachers would say that as well, that really you can go in and you can click and you can go through the process. And that's huge because you have to make sure that you're hitting all the areas. And Jessie spent so much time, her and I spent so much time when I got here last year just talking through that. And what does that look like? And how do we make that form meaningful? And how do we make it so that the teachers know that this is so important to fill this out, to go through the process? So that was a very, very huge step for the elementary school, in my opinion. And I think with her leadership and her talking with the teachers and the teachers being willing to give us feedback on what they felt was missing, from the special education teachers to the reg ed teachers to the whole department, this form is huge now. You can look at this form and go, okay, we're hitting all the components of what we need to be hitting for a student. And that kind of starts your whole process. So getting that right was huge. And it took a lot of people and a lot of time and a lot of effort from the elementary school. Sorry, but you need
No, thank you. I appreciate that very much. But yeah, I mean, I think we're in a good spot with it. I feel, that the way it's set up, if you are putting in a referral for one type of thing, you don't have to go through the steps of every single other, component. It kind of branches you off. So right now it's working well. But then what happens is, the teacher can continues collecting data, whatever, and then we have what's called our child study team, which comes together. Includes, Mr. Tra, myself, Miss Led, Mrs. Gum, our school counselor, Mr. Romig, the classroom teacher, and anybody else who might have any stake in this child's, day at school. And that's where we really collaborate and we do a problem solving session as to what are we seeing here? What do we think the student needs? How are we going to provide it for them? we make a plan. That plan is kind of sent out with the teacher and the student and all of us, and we monitor it for about 4 to 6 weeks. It kind of depends. But that doesn't mean that once the plan has begun that they're just on their own. We're checking in. If there's things that need to be tweaked, that's happening all the time. So it's very fluid. And that's when, when I'm talking about with the implementation and the monitoring, it's really important that for me, that I'm able to have open communication with the teachers, that they can tell me what's working, what's not working. I've really been encouraging them to not be afraid to ask if they need support in some way. I know teachers, having been in the classroom for 25 years, like, we don't like to ask for help. We like to do it ourselves. So that's something that we're really working on and hopefully, moving towards. So these are just some of the things that I feel like, in addition to what I spoke of, the progress and the strengths. I mean, the number one thing, honestly, has been the administrative support that I received this year. I mean, just coming to my meetings, helping me schedule my meetings, bringing their expertise to the meetings, just supporting all around, supporting the students, everybody coming together, providing me with the opportunity to work with Nadine Swab, who's the MTSS coach from the IU, has been really invaluable too. The other thing is too, just to combine, the dedicated child study team and the designated and consistent student support, like with Mrs. Gott, Miss Led, Mr. Romig, Mr. Trial. All I have to do is send an email or send a text, and they're right there to help me. It's great. It's been amazing, the support they've given me. And I do hope that the teachers feel that the resources that we're providing them are helpful. I feel they're organized, they're available to them, and hopefully they feel the same way, which I think they do. These are the things that we kind of look at when we're collecting data. We do screeners beginning, middle, and end of the year, including DIBELS, our SAVIS, CDTs, which isn't listed there, but is one, Firefly, which is a new one we're going to be doing, and PSSAs, as well as the screeners that we do for social emotional, just to get some data on where our kids are that way. And I think the last one is just, kind of the things that we're going to be moving towards. And like what Mr. Tross said, is continuing to focus on consistency and fidelity of the tier 1, the curriculum. I think that another thing that I'm really going to be putting a lot of effort into is really getting out into the classrooms and making sure that I'm available to help support students and teachers more. And then just to, like I said, continue to foster the staff relationships and provide professional development as they feel they need it. I think that's the last one.
Hi guys, I'm Emily Lopakowski. I'm the intervention support specialist. I just wanted to touch base a little bit on the small groups that I'm doing, and just my involvement, which kind of stems off of the MTSS process. So it's definitely been a great opportunity to identify students that might need to talk or are struggling or need some additional support in a way that may not have been necessarily there before. School Beat has been a great component for that, because I've been able to identify some of the kids that way that might not otherwise know how to, ask for help. But the way I'm doing that is via individual groups or small groups through the tiered process, which are tier 2, tier 3 in the MTSS process. So the data I'm using to form my small groups, as well as to identify any individual check-ins that might be needed on a more consistent basis rather than just a School Beat check-in, is through School Beat. I can look up a whole student's profile and see all of their check-ins that they have, how many times they request support, and just see what their moods have looked like over a period of time. The BEST, which is the BASC screener. It's a much shorter version of the BASC if anybody's ever done that. But this is, 20, 25 questions, and it's really quick. Kindergarten, first grade, and second grade are done by the teacher. Third and fourth grade are all done by student self-report. The MTSS referrals, attendance records, discipline records, incidents, or any events, whether it might be to the child or school-related events that have happened, and then communication from parents and teachers as well. One thing that Mrs. Singley has been really helping me out with that is a lot of teachers want to just be like, hey, this kid's struggling, can you throw them in a small group, and really emphasizing, we need to go through the MTSS process. It's not just for every kid to be in a small group. Let's look at all of the data and let's structure a plan accordingly then. Some of the group topics are listed there. I've done a whole bunch. Tried to get creative with some of them. For example, pulling like some siblings together for a sibling group to help improve relationships. Doing a lot of anger management, coping skills for the younger kids, just really feeling identification and basic coping skills. A lot of social skills training, relationship and friendship development, healthy relationships, hygiene, self-esteem, and leadership as well for those kids that might be struggling behaviorally, but also have a lot of leadership qualities and how to turn that into a positive. The frequency is on the 6-day rotation. So I usually do it during the MTSS block in the morning. Like we talked about, it's really important that they get that SEL support early on in the day. I usually try to do the school beat check-ins during that time as well. Except if there is a kid that really enjoys to use school beat to get out of class. I've kind of picked up on which kiddos those are, and those are done on a different time of the day. I also do lunch bunch groups during lunchtime as well. Those are primarily fourth grade and third grade students that I do the lunch bunch with, and they really enjoyed that. I try to cap off all my groups at 6 per student. It's the most efficient that way. A lot of these kids need that individualized support and that small group check-in. It's definitely smaller for our younger kids because to have even 6 kindergarteners, it's really hard to refocus them because we don't necessarily have a ton of time based on their attention span and the ability to focus for a lot of what we're talking about. So I try to cap it off at 6, and if there are kids that are more high risk, those are individually, of course. And then next year, I really want to continue to expand on creative group topics, different ways to integrate additional supports and resources based off of data collected. And I think it'll really help me going into the school year this coming year because we have all the data from School Beat, from the BEST. I kind of have an idea going into next year, which kids I'll want to start off right away with at the beginning of the year. So I appreciate the flexibility I've been given to kind of explore all of this and put together some good groups and activities for the kiddos. Any questions?
I would say by all measures, you've been a great asset this year, and I don't want to put you on the spot with a question of the group. So I would say getting to make a role your own is really exciting, and at the end of the year, if you can just reflect a little bit and then maybe share with Mr. Trawl if there's any resources, trainings, anything that you would feel like could support you in doing what you want to do to continue to make this your own next year. So share those with us. So.
Yeah, thank you.
She's already offered her services over to the middle school as well.
Yes.
Just saying.
I was gonna say, if we could clone her
Kudos, there you go.
and,
Well, and sibling wise too, like when we do have stuff across families, it's been nice to be able to kind of bounce over to the middle school and high school and check in on those kids too.
But in all seriousness, Emily did come to me and say there are some things and opportunities that she feels that she could offer to the middle school students. And I think that is just what she just said, being able to work with siblings, getting to know the families, getting to know the kids has kind of bled over into the middle school. So I think that kind of just naturally happens. And then we just have to figure out what that looks like and how it fits into my schedule moving forward.
And then really quick before we move on to something else, Jessie, when you said 40 students are in the MTSS process, that's tier 2 and tier 3, right?
Yeah, it is. It's once they are referred through that process, I consider them, one of my little under my umbrella kids. And that's not including though the kids that have been referred for speech OTPT. So these are all academic, behavior, social emotional. Attendance is another one where, where a child might get referred. So there's approximately 40 as of last week.
I'd just like to point that out for our new board members who don't know as much about MTSS yet, and even some parents are like, well, what is my kid doesn't get MTSS? I'm like, we're all tier 1 kids until we're tier 2 or tier 3 kids. Everybody gets MTSS. And just to say how thrilled I am with what's happened with MTSS in the elementary school. Last year at a public meeting up at the CSIU, I said to them, like, what else do I have to do to get you to give us an AD next year? Like, I felt tongue blue in the face. And to be frank, it was just really convincing them that if they invested resources into us, that we would be good stewards of them because of maybe some opinions they've had about things in the past. And I told them, I really believe we have the right people in the right place at the right time right now. And I think you guys have demonstrated that. And you know, again, like even when we talk about, you know, the new TDA program, nobody here should have the expectation that we're going to see 15 fours from fourth grade on a TDA this year. That's not how it works. But fingers crossed, we see a couple more threes. Like this isn't going to change overnight, but I think we're going in the right direction, and it's important. It's a big investment of time and energy and resources and reassurance. And I think it's just important to recognize, like now I sit in meetings and they talk about how wonderful things are at Southern, and that's a really proud thing.
So that's a great segue. Because I can tell you honestly, what I've been hearing in my time here is consistency, consistency, consistency. How do we get consistency? And I know in working with my fellow administrators, we talked about things that we needed to solidify first before we could be on that road to consistency from year to year. And one of them was the curriculum. And in many ways, it was our ELA and our math curriculum as well as our writing curriculum. We needed to look at that across the board. This year, we really, well, we probably set a Guinness record for the most things in a building because we took 3 things on in a matter of a year, which is a huge deal. Understand teachers are learning new processes. They're learning, new textbooks, new resources. In some of these situations, like you look at the Into Reading and you look at the Savas Math, it's an overabundance of resources that teachers then have to make decisions and prioritize, because you can't cover everything necessarily in some of those, big box programs like the ones we're using. So yes, the change was necessary and certainly overdue, and it did give us a freshen up. It freshened up our curriculum, our teaching, specifically in 5th, 6th with Into Reading implementation and the Savas Math that we implemented in 7th and 8th grade. Okay, so some of the challenges and instructional constraints, I'll be honest, I got this information directly from teachers. I said, I want your input. I want to know exactly what you see as a positive and as a drawback to the programs we're utilizing. So with 5th and 6th grade Into Reading, one of the things that consistently comes up is the instructional time. Typically, the program suggests 75 to 90 minutes be spent. However, that includes and incorporates their writing program. I'd like to feel we have a more robust writing program with what we're doing, which obviously changes some of those recommendations for time. In some cases, like in 5th and 6th grade, we experimented this year with separate writing and reading blocks, which I think is really good. If you're going to prioritize writing, such as what we are, 5 through 8, well then let's show that it is a priority, and it isn't a priority unless we have a dedicated time for it. Okay, so in 5th grade we have 50 minutes of reading, and we have 50 minutes of writing and grammar, all right, built into their daily schedule every day. In 6th grade we have 60 minutes, but we additionally have that MTSS flex time at the end of the day that we've been utilizing to get that extra time. In 7th and 8th grade, they have a double period. So what the high school gets in a period, what we do is we follow the high school schedule and we'll say, listen, period 2 and 3, you're in ELA. All right. So we package that together. In fact, we are blocked in every ELA in math in the entire middle school. If you have ELA or math, with the exception of Algebra 1, you are in a block or a double period. All right. Some of the input that I received concerning the Into Reading, students are adjusting to the routines. This is the change from before. It is clear, structured, and every day, essentially students know, just like the Envision Math, they know the routines, they know the structure of the lesson, they know the introduction, anticipatory set. They know what the meat and potatoes of the lesson will be, and then there's some form of exit ticket or formative assessment, whether it's individual practice or a ticket out the door. Those things are pretty consistent. And the teachers from our CDTs that we've taken in reading noticed early gains in close reading skills. So we are seeing some of the fruits of their labor. Some of the constraints would be, obviously, they always want more time. Teachers want more time at the middle school, more focused, uninterrupted time. is what I'm hearing. Also, the large volume of resources. As a teacher, they're figuring out what is essential, what is something that maybe isn't as necessary, and they're navigating that right now as they're doing it. As well as, you know, a drawback would be, we did emphasize novels more, reading circles. We had more of an emphasis on that in the past. Now, we really need to make sure that we're covering and getting through the content in the curriculum. So we've seen some constraints there. Now, the way I see it is, as we get more familiar with the curriculum, teachers will find ways of incorporating that as we move forward. So I know that's a constraint this year because the program is unfamiliar and new, but with confidence and with exposure is going to hopefully ease some of that and allow them to introduce more novels and lit circles. Next steps, they're going to streamline pacing and continue to work through materials. They're looking to reintroduce novels and lit circles. They're going to continue collaborating and obviously find ways for separate reading and writing blocks. And that might be with existing resources. It might be, rotating reading and writing based on personnel and staff available. You know, this year we were lucky in 5th grade, we had 5 teachers, but we do have a large class. So it was necessary that we had 5 teachers. But it did create a situation where with that 5th teacher, we could create, that writing course, which was different from last year and years prior. Moving on to the Envision map. This is input from 7th and 8th grade teachers. So this would have been Dr. Cole and Mrs. Fry's input. They felt it was effective. The trainings were effective. The resources are very clear, logical sequence. There's scaffolded rigor. One of the challenges I find, if you ever look through some of those consumable books, there isn't much room. So they do provide space, but it certainly is not adequate space. So oftentimes teachers are making decisions, whether it be, they're putting work in a separate notebook or they're, recreating with ample space to work through some of those problems. Geometry is consistently a timing. It seems in a lot of that curriculum, it comes at the tail end. And then what happens is we're always scrambling to get to it. So we're checking things off. We see a deficit. We spend time on those deficits. If we close the gap, we're moving forward, but now we're behind. And then we have a concept way out here that we're rushing towards. But, I always tell my teachers, you meet the kids where they're at. If we don't get to something, unfortunately, we don't get to that. But the stuff we got to, they're going to test well on. So those are the things that are a struggle every year. And that pacing and that timing over time will get better. I know Mr. Venna on his way out the door, he certainly, it was a challenge every year, but he had it down to a science. And, that ultimately we get there. The next slide deals with some instructional design, student engagement. It's clear that engagement is high, it's meaningful, it's rigorous, it's often tied to real life, which is good because that builds meaning. I can tell you that adaptation is a little bit, we're in conversation with regular ed and special education learning support teachers to see how we can effectively adapt in a little bit better way. We've noticed a little bit of a roadblock with the adapted materials in the program, but that's something that we'll work through. Online activities are a little less engaging. There are videos and different things that are presented to students that are online, but they're not as engaging as what the instructor makes it when they're delivering the material. So those are some of the different areas that you could certainly look over for effectiveness and areas of improvement. Looking at guidance is largely, we've utilized the school beat. So we have been utilizing that. We've done consistent check-ins. We have thousands of check-ins. The number escapes me, but it is a lot at the middle school. So the check-ins are occurring. We also, the lessons, there's a slew of lessons on there that we've been utilizing. I know Mr. GK in 5th and 6th grade has been utilizing it in instructing his classes. I know in 7th and 8th grade, there's a high emphasis on smart futures. And I know Too Good for Drugs has become part of that discussion. That's typically the age range and grade level where we like to have those conversations with students. So that's a continuum of different initiatives at each of the grade levels by guidance. Obviously, there's areas where we want to improve. Areas, like what Mr. Traw's dealing with MTSS, we would like to see that grow at the middle school. Right now, we largely for MTSS take our data from our CDTs. It dictates our groupings. The next CDT, we're looking at modifying those groupings. But, and teachers will utilize formative assessment to make in the moment changes. But to have a more rigorous MTSS process at the middle school is certainly somewhere I hope to be in moving forward, as well as, interventions similar to what Mrs. Lukowski's doing at the elementary. I mean, those programs should expand at the middle school. We shouldn't certainly be contracting it when kids need it the most, when they're dealing with some pretty significant obstacles in terms of rigor going up. Schoolwork is getting harder. Socially, we all know middle school can be tough for most kids. They're going through development and growth and changes. So, it'd be my hope that I could present to you in a year's time with, a lot more on there. But that's where we're at the middle school when it comes to guidance initiatives. The chaos. So we talk about wanting consistency from year to year. Typically, our 5th and 6th grade, as you know, due to unified arts, and when we have unified arts, it changes things a little bit. We've been able to preserve blocks of uninterrupted time. However, the specials, unfortunately, in 6th grade, create a little bit of an issue. If we had some flexibility with moving some of those around the unified arts courses, we could probably preserve it in better blocks of uninterrupted time. But the reality of it is, you can see up there, we do have, approximately an hour, with the exception being 7th and 8th grade, we go by the high school schedule. So there is a little bit of difference. There is a little bit of necessary changes between the 5th and 6th grade schedule. I think things such as lunches can be negotiated, but certain things cannot, as far as unified arts availability. Now, there are things we could do to affect that or impact that. Right now we operate on a 6-day schedule. We could certainly modify that. We could introduce or look at quarter courses. My only worry and all that would be that might change the menu of unified arts courses that we currently have. And if you look at the next slide, we do have a lot of them. We have 6 different options in every grade level. Some have 7 where we have semester courses. So there is a lot of opportunity there, probably more so than we've had in previous years. However, any changes we make to that, any lack of flexibility with us in kind of modifying the schedule or moving the schedule may ultimately limit what we're able to do in the scheme of unified arts. So I just wanted to present that to you. Obviously, conversations are occurring. I don't think you'll find a more creative team at the middle school in navigating those waters. And certainly any input, is appreciated. I know students want longer lunches. I know they want longer class transitions. I know these things are things that they want. However, our focus needs to be on the academic piece, and uninterrupted instructional time is where I'm at. And any change we can make to solidify those blocks to 80-minute blocks would be welcomed. And we've looked at quite a few. One thing that isn't up here is, I ran a 4-block schedule with a 40-minute lunch in the middle, and we could have 80-minute blocks. And then those 80-minute blocks can be broken up into 40-minute sections where we could put 40-minute unified arts during the course of the day. It would work out really nicely. However, that works when you have unified arts teachers available in every class period. And that isn't necessarily the case when you share them with both the high school and the elementary school. So, the reality of it is we're not Mifflinburg or another school that I taught at where we had 7 unified arts teachers, but I think we're doing a pretty good job at taking the resources that are available and working through it. The problem is, for consistency's sake, if we had, you know, a consistent unified arts teacher at the middle school each year, consistent number, we could probably long-term get more consistent in what our schedules look like from year to year, and there wouldn't be as much change. Okay?
2 questions about lunch.
Yes.
Number one, it came up in our wellness meeting where for the middle school and high school, why can't we have ABC lunch and you pick your classes and whatever lunch fits works, since we have kids in different grades this year together? And it sounds like you can separate these kids and it's not a big deal to anybody, and we don't have gobs of seniors or juniors here.
So we're doing that in the high school this year. We talked about it, not having 9 and 10 being in B lunch, or 11 and 12 in C lunch. Might loosen things up with scheduling. So that's one of the things we've talked about doing. So I think it'd be easy to incorporate that with Mr. Kiefer. So I know we did it. There are some minor issues that we had to deal with this year, crossovers between high school kids and the 6th graders and lunch, but I'm talking very minor. You know, it was always our opinion to try and keep middle school and high school separated as much as possible, but this is something that we could definitely explore since it's already somewhat occurring in a small capacity.
One scheduling drawback is, you know, we know right now how many kids are going to be in each of those lunches, because we know the size of the 9th and 10th grade, the size of the 11th and 12th. Depending on what the scheduler runs and how the classes fall, you may have a lunch that's pushing 300 kids and another lunch that's pushing 100 kids, you know. So I don't know what that would look like. I do know my own kid goes to a school where that happens. And there's a lot of trying to finagle because kids upper level kids don't want to eat with younger kids. So there's a lot of like attempts at scheduling, finagling. So I think those are little things we would just have to, you know, be mindful of.
I just wondered if it would unlock something if we said everybody needs a lunch. It doesn't matter if it's A, B, or C. And Mr. Roselli says that he can accommodate additional kids beyond the current lunch sizes efficiently, and that everybody will have adequate time to eat. That came up as a question as well, which TBD, I don't know. And then my other question, just looking at this, is could computer and STEM be combined as one?
I don't see why it couldn't. Absolutely, it could. You know, we could combine those and we can navigate that, however, with Mr. Williams. I mean, obviously, Travis would have to develop a more robust course that's really aligned to STEM. Right now, it's largely computer and apps, and I do think that needs a refresher, and we've discussed that. But I caution with 7th and 8th grade, find the value for some kids that maybe their only exposure to wood or metal shop. I mean, do we want to, you know, look at impacting that? You know, I don't know, but yeah, your short answer is yes, we certainly could, you know, look at marrying that course and make it like a more STEM focus for sure. So there's ways where we could consolidate, combine, but you know, I don't want to eliminate or reduce if, you know, because we're removing options then and experiences for kids.
So the other day, for instance, Mike asked me if I'd be able to give him Emily Zazette to get some, to get in the rotation. I can't. She is completely full. We had to cut classes this year where she had like 18 kids sign up for her class, you know, and can we clone another Emily Zazette? You know, that's the other thing too. But we are hamstring, so our kids aren't going to get, our middle school kids are not going to be able to get exposed on the rotation to the FCS classes. So,
and we want them exposed to all of those so that when they come to the high school, they can make smart decisions about their elective, not only because it's a career they're interested in, but because it's something that they like. So, you know, it's really important during that unified arts wheel that they're getting exposed to a lot of different areas that they can have up in high school.
and one of them's ag. We had ag this year, but as we continue to increase our classes and the program goes, we're not going to be able to have ag in the middle school rotation, you know, moving forward. So those are just the things, you know, that his challenges are.
It goes to some, sorry.
Sorry.
To one of my thoughts about Emily, like I think Emily should be on the middle school wheel. I think there's a lot of value to that. And one of my questions at the end is going to be, you know, how do we engage the stakeholders that aren't at this table, the taxpayers and the parents and the students? And I think Emily offers a lot of great classes and kids take them. And part of my thought process is, do we take them because it's fun and I enjoyed her, she's an engaging teacher and I don't want to sit in a study hall? Or do we take them because I actually care about this curriculum? Is there a better use of her time than what we're doing right now? I'm not suggesting there is or there's not. I'm just saying, I think that she has a really valuable skill set and there might be some curriculum that'd be really valuable to push down into the middle school.
And we have a requirement to do that.
Yes.
So you have to expose middle school students to that. It's legally required.
Now, the good thing is with Mrs. Trometer, we could push the nutritional aspect. I mean, there's some crossover there where we can develop through her because she would be an exclusive middle school PE and we could have her teach courses, you know, that are more aligned with FCS skills. So, but you won't get any of the more specific, you know, there's no sewing. Do we sew anymore? I don't know if we sew anymore, but, you know, there are certain skills where, man, it would be fantastic if we could expose middle school students because I know, you know, every student should, you know, every person should know how to do those and navigate those situations. So.
So, number of questions and observations. In a world where you had whatever personnel you needed, does life get easier with 9 43-minute periods from 5 through 12?
9 43-minute periods, but what about the 90 minutes of ELA and math instruction that you need in the
So
day?
you get 89, right? 43, and the 3-minute in between or they're not.
Mhm.
Like, does that open up options for you in scheduling?
I mean, I suppose it would. But they would need landing spots, like, you know, kids would have to be assigned, we would need to fill that schedule up.
Right, I'm just asking, like, would that help you in getting everything aligned, bell schedule wise, then also having more time in the classroom? And I just ask, as I look at the previous slide for the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, the engineer in me was crying. So looking at the lengths of the periods in between all these different things, right? And when I add up the 5th grade, we got math, ELA, and writing total 178 potential minutes out of a 410-minute day. Right, so less than half our day is spent on the 3 courses that and this isn't picking on middle school, this is like just across the board, right? Less than half our time ends up going to the 3 most important things that we're trying to do, seemingly between elementary and middle school all the way up to 5th grade. And when you look at a lot of the rest, right, so we're some of it social science, and then we have a ton, yes, recess, watch, but we have a lot of time built in for MTSS and everything else. And so I'm just sitting here going like, those things are important. I know why we're doing them. If we don't do those, kids are just going to fall behind. And then what? It's just, it seems like now we're at a point as schools where we're so busy trying to fill those gaps. A lot of them, as you read that list, are gaps that should be from parenting and aren't. That now we can't teach reading, math, and English, right? Like, I can't teach you math today because you can't sit through the class. We'll get to that when you're a senior. Like, it gets frustrating seeing it. And you guys are doing an awesome job of trying to remediate, do the best for every kid. So, not a criticism of anybody here. It just seems like that's where we're sort of stuck here. And how do we make that work with that reality? So that was my first question, was just, you know, on the periods. And then what are the bottlenecks for Unified Arts that would free you up? I don't know what's shared right now between, you know, when you get down to the teacher feedback, you know, it's evident that, you know, a lot of the feedback is, hey, when we're bouncing between buildings, it breaks the schedule. And so having the same schedule might help a little, but I think the fundamental problem from elementary and middle school is still a big issue, right?
So the crossover between, I can't speak for elementary, middle school, high school, you know, aside from our core classes with like algebra and Spanish, you know, the elective wheel courses that we share, art, ag, phys ed, we were able to separate this year because Mrs. Trometer is full-time middle school, Mr. Deljanovin's full-time high school. Tech ed, we have like every music, every elective course, essentially, we pretty much share. And it bottlenecks both of us for scheduling essentially at the end of the day.
Essentially, we have, you know, fifth and sixth grade guidance with, I mean, guidance aside, we're looking at, you know, Mr. Williams and Mrs. Trominer, looking at 2 exclusive middle school unified arts teachers. Everything else is obviously dependent upon, obviously, enrollment numbers, what courses are available, and what unified arts teachers we can tap into.
And at the high school level, during this wheel, when 7th and 8th grade classes are, we're using those shared teachers, at the high school level, then we don't have access to them. So if you think about our teachers over those lunch periods, half of them are eating their lunch. So now we have half a staff in the high school, and then you take away those unified art teachers. Now we have, no one is able in high school to take a unified arts class during those periods. So now we're really hamstrung with what we can offer during, you know, those lunch times.
And we'll get into all that in ours. I don't want to take away from Mike here, so yeah.
But what it does is we end up having to take grade levels of students and then say, okay, this period, everybody's having unified arts, because then, you know, that's their period then, that's middle school, and then they could still carry a high school schedule. So instead of saying, okay, unified arts is available any period and we can run the scheduler and get really creative and preserve that uninterrupted time because there's always going to be a unified arts teacher available, it isn't the case because, you know, I have them for this period or I have this one for those periods and we have to work around that. And anytime you do that, you ultimately make it much more difficult to run those schedules. It's at fewer places where they can drop.
So even if you match the high school bell schedule, right, you're still gonna have the same issue because
You're still gonna have issues.
1 and 2 are blocked and 3 and 4 are blocked, but they're freezing out there off the lunch at 4th, right?
Absolutely.
So is there a realm where build a wheel with electives and unified arts? Where you might say, hey, we have 3 unified arts and the other 3 days you're going to go to your elective and get essentially half credits worth of that. And now you have 4 things. But have it all so you're not sharing people. Is that just crazy or?
The way to solve it is don't share, in my opinion. But then what happens is you're not offering as much to middle school kids that you are when they're being creative with what they're doing currently. So what's happening is you're basically taking classes and filling them in because you're saying, okay, this is available. If you leave that mindset and just say, these are the 5 classes we're offering to middle school kids, and can we steal somebody from the high school to go down to the middle school to do that? That's some of the conversation that Mike and I had. But then what that does is it says to our middle school kids, you're not getting all these different opportunities. You're getting this. Does that make sense?
Right. So like 2 thoughts, right? I realize there's 1 of 2 ways to do this, right? To either figure out how to, within 5 through 8 staff, fill that so we don't share. We're talking about hiring additional people so we don't share, right? So then we start talking, okay, well, what is there something I can't do because I'm doing that? And so I'm just trying to think outside the box. Do we care if 5th through 8th don't have as many options in their scheduling?
I would really emphasize the writing part. I would feel better with hiring writing teachers and we'll just continue to navigate the waters with what's available. I mean, the focus, I would really want the focus to be on the writing and on the writing and the TDA rollout and having that separate writing block each day. I think if we can provide that, if we have that 5th option in each of the grade levels, that writing section, I think that would be a significant move forward.
Going back to what I said at the time, I'm totally on board with that. Like, I'm totally okay in 5th grade. Sorry, I don't really care about your electives. I care about your reading, your writing, your math. And getting you up to par on those before you enter high school where you get more freedom. I'd be totally fine with that.
Right, and then moving forward,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So we mentioned the scheduler multiple times. I still don't understand how we make schedules. Like, so is it that we can't, it doesn't work with the amount of time we have in the day and the number of people we have to teach the subjects that we want to provide? Or is it that we aren't able to find a feasible or optimal solution that allows us to do all the things we want with those people in that period of time? Is it that it doesn't exist? The solution doesn't exist or is not possible or is not feasible? Or are we just unable to figure out how to arrange the schedule to make it work?
I think I'm sorry.
No. Somebody needs to explain the scheduler to me, because we speak of it as if it is something that optimizes things, but then I also hear, well, I have to manually move this class around. If you're manually moving a class, the software is not doing what it is supposed to do.
I mean, I
And
think
we should spend 20 grand on new software.
I think we can
if it's
speak
solved.
to that. I don't know if Mike wants to just finish, because I think
Sure.
we talk a lot
At
about
some
that
point
now.
tonight,
We're gonna get involved.
at some point tonight,
That's the
I
high
need to
school.
understand how
Josh,
this works,
It's
because
gonna be all ironed out here and
you're gonna solve it. All right.
well, I'm not gonna say we're gonna solve it. We're gonna present you with ideas and you guys are gonna make some decisions.
Henry's gonna take my job.
Great. Thank you.
We're not talking about, that's not what we're talking about, sharing. We're not gonna share that job.
Oh, all right, no. We could rotate it or whatever. All right, so we can move to the next one. That just highlights some of the things we already talked about. Moving forward, obviously, we're going to look at firming up CDT data to target instruction. In looking at some of the results from the September to December CDTs, we did see that our focus groups actually performed the best. We had in sixth grade ELA, 83% growth in the focus group. In fifth grade ELA, we had 79% growth in the targeted intervention group. So those are students from the first to second CDT that scored under 1,000 on it. And we actually had really significant growth in those targeted focus groups. We're going to obviously continue to focus on intervention tied to the data, our MTSS. In the time that we have to do that, we're going to be obviously, our math does drive our schedule, but we're going to be looking to develop other things. You know, I suggested, why don't we look at honors level courses? Why don't we start looking at the ELAs, looking at the other classes, and seeing if we can position students? Obviously, math would drive the schedule. However, we should still be looking at ELA, not placing students, but putting them by ability, where they need to be. I'm in the process right now with Dr. Gaikowski. We're actually developing a middle school course selection guide. That is going to include prerequisites. That's going to include standards, sequences of learning. All of those things are going to be put in that middle school course selection guide. And that's something we don't have that I think is definitely necessary. So those are all the things moving forward where we're looking to go. Future direction, we're looking to strengthen MTSS at the school and our intervention consistency. We're looking to refine writing expectations across all content areas and doing that cross-curricular as well. We're looking at vertically aligning to the best way that we can and the best ability we can with our neighbors. And more clearly defined pathways, learning pathways, which could be the honors courses, the acceleration models, the students that need more intervention, what should their school day look like? Foreseen needs, obviously, staff, we're looking at to have a separate writing in the ELA course. We'd be looking at an additional teacher in each of the grade, in the grade levels without 5 teachers. We're looking at dedicating writing instruction at each of the grade levels and just focusing on that as a separate area from reading and grammar. Vision obviously would be the potential schedule changes that are going to take place throughout the course of the year yet into next year. Expanding course offerings for support and enrichment, stronger alignment across buildings, and continued program updates driven by student data. I know Mr. Hynoski had talked about, or he's going to maybe talk about this whole Firefly as opposed to CDTs. I know Mr. Tra's looking to move into the realm possibly and utilizing Firefly. So there's things that we are looking at as well on top of the CDTs that we are utilizing to drive some of these decisions about intervention and enrichment. So that, I believe, is everything. I apologize.
Fantastic. I cringe when I hear creative, because to me, creative means that we're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. And I really tried to focus on how do we be innovative in the middle school so that Peter and Paul can both have.
Yes.
But when you talked about considering honors classes, it made me think of a question I wanted to ask Brandon. Are you far enough into the year yet? Because I know that there was some concern about how you're grouping kids in 3rd and 4th grade this year, from teachers at the beginning of the year. Do you have a sense with the data that you have of whether that was helpful or not, and whether that would support a decision to try and make a go of honors classes in the middle school, or not yet?
So, the feedback coming into this school year was, it'd be so great if we grouped our kids academically. Where are they at? It would help with differentiation and being able to meet the students' needs. And if one class has to be a little bit slower to, make sure the kiddos are getting everything, that would be great comparing to just having a wide variety of kiddos' academics abilities in one section. Obviously, now that we're into it, now the feedback is a little bit opposite from some folks that they don't like it as much, or could we do this way, and I'm listening to it, but I really do believe it is the best way to grow our students and to meet their individual needs, and for them to see growth, and for kiddos that struggle in a particular area not get frustrated with the content and absolutely, oh my God, it's math and I hate math. And now I want to go sit in the bathroom for 20 minutes of the math block. I think it's an area of, mentioned about PD earlier. I think this is an area that we need to continue to improve on. Last year when I asked, I made a statement to the elementary faculty about a couple of things on where we need to grow, and differentiation was one of those things. And then Dr. Gaikowski did a survey about maybe 2 months, maybe down the road. And that survey, and it was anonymous, which I hate anonymous surveys, by the way, because I want to be able to go talk to people with where their stances are. But it was an anonymous survey, and one of the things that just happened to come up in that was the majority of the staff feel that we need more differentiation, or more PD with differentiation. So I think it's an area that we can continue to grow in. So there might be some folks that are struggling or don't like it as much because maybe they feel stressed, they're not reaching all the kiddos in that classroom. But I think we're in a better place right now than where we were in the past. And it's just going to be, one, a lot of people hate change, and there's been a lot of change this year, and there's going to continue to be change. But through that, we're going to grow. And I believe you need to be uncomfortable in order to continue to grow. And that's where we're at.
And I would just want to piggyback off of that. I think some of the frustration comes from the special education world there, in that having paraprofessionals and co-teachers in those environments. So it does handicap us a little bit when you have the 2 learning support teachers working across multiple grade levels, and then making sure that the kids are supported correctly in those grade levels, and then without paraprofessionals. So where we can't necessarily have a co-teacher model, having paraprofessionals in that environment was really helpful. But unfortunately, due to the high need of some of our neediest students, we've had to pull them to act as one-to-ones. So I think that has, in my head, wearing special ed director hat before coming into this, that was the game plan going in, that there would be a co-teacher or there would be a paraprofessional there to support that. And then what ended up happening is we don't have that person because they were needed in other places. And I think for a regular ed person, that needs, Amy and I've already talked about that. There needs to be training on co-teaching. What does true co-teaching look like? We need to model that. That also goes hand in hand with differentiating the instruction, but that co-teaching piece is huge as well. Because if you have a co-teacher in your lowest math class working together and collaborating with those hardest, most difficult students, you're going to see so much growth. It's just it's a little bit of a scheduling issue when you don't have one person working in each grade level. But I don't think it's impossible. I think it's just getting better each year on how we schedule it.
What is to try and support staff buy-in if we do this in the middle school where yes, everyone needs to differentiate more, hands down, regardless of what you do with the middle school schedule. But what's the best measure of how effective this was? Is it looking at the fourth grade class who didn't have differentiation last year and do this year and looking at student growth last year per student versus this year? Or what's the best measure? Because I don't know that it's BSSA's.
No, I think you got to look at everything, Bree, across the board. So I think also we want to look at Jesse's data through the MTSS process. What is the referrals? How many referrals did we have? Were there more referrals this year than last year? What does the kids' data look like across the board? I think you got to look at all that to determine, because that's the ultimate goal, right? Is that we don't want to put students into our MTSS if we don't have to. So if we structure our core right, get our core right, then those numbers should go down. So I think that would be a good measure to see how many more, where we're at from last year's numbers to this year's numbers. The unfortunate piece about that is I just don't know if we are set up as well as we are right now. I almost would want to have this exact conversation a year from now, because I feel like this year's MTSS model is truly an MTSS model versus last year. I think we were trying our very best and we were kind of just going. But I feel that this year we could really look at that data to determine if that worked or didn't work.
I agree. I would say MTSS is not in this year because my hope is we have far more kids than we did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add something too? I think from like an SEL perspective, it's the differentiation in class is really beneficial because you're going to have kids that are in the lower levels feeling stronger because they're not being compared to kids that are at the highest level as well. And I don't know as much for the third grade, but I've been in the fourth grade classrooms with some of the kiddos that I work with, and you can tell that they feel more confident in the classroom. I don't know what they were like last year, but I think just from the emotional side of things, it's beneficial.
And I think for the flip side too, I think when you have kids who need enrichment and are being read to in second grade, it creates anxiety for those kids too.
Yeah, works both ways.
Question just for all three principals. Do we hold kids back for academic reasons? That's not the parent request to hold them back for academics.
I mean, it has occurred, but it's few and far between.
Ours is based on credits earned.
Yeah.
So we have a scaffolded structure at the high school, but yes, they are
Right, so
technically.
at the high school, it's a little less relevant because if you didn't pass your math credit, you still have to take it to graduate. But just elementary and middle school level, is that a tool that we use?
We have had retention, for students that didn't meet the requirements, the credit requirements. Sure.
So mine's different than middle school and high school. So it's a discussion and it's a kid by kid basis. Everybody's different. So it's a discussion with the teacher or teachers, depending on what grade they're in. And then our intervention people, counselors, on do we think it's a good move or not a good move? Is it a lack of academics? Is it a social, concern that we might have to look at it? My mind also is looking at it if it's a student that's not identified. With my past background, like I always think of age as well, on where that kiddo is going to be when they're a senior, if they are held back in the elementary level. Is it best for them to stay back then? Or if they are struggling with academics, is it better to kind of push them through and maybe they end up being a retention in the middle school when they're a little bit older, a little bit hopefully more mature. So there's a lot that we look at. So yeah, it could definitely be outside of a parent request. And I can tell you that we have the ball rolling with a couple kiddos already this year, and parents have been met with, and we're all on the same page. So it's not a surprise that if it does come up, I think last year, we had 2 or 3 in the elementary building, so not a lot.
Okay. Now, I just asked the question because, we're pushing them through because they're not quite there, but there's other overriding reasons. Do we then end up having to devote even more resources to catch them up the next year, whereas holding them back, and we wouldn't need the extra resources because they already are somewhat familiar, with exceptions for like, hey, they were off because there was a specific family event and they will be fine catching up on the ring next year, moving along.
And every cohort's different. I'm sure we could look at some cohorts and be like, hey, we should hold 20 kids back this year potentially. I'm just throwing a number out there. Well, then we're looking at numbers. That 20 now just takes that class from 95 to now 115. So, that's something we'll have to look at too.
On the flip side of that, if you push them all in, do you need an extra special ed teacher? Do you need 3 extra pairs to handle that?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It hasn't come up yet, but that's the goal of MTSS, is to not have, for anybody that's not familiar, to not have them be identified. because that was a problem area that a lot of us know in the past is we did have an over identification of certain students. And we did have an MTSS process in place I mean, on paper, I guess we had one in place. But we truly didn't have one.
Mike, I'm gonna come all the way back to you since it's still your slide up there. How many teachers do you have per grade right now?
4 to 5, 2 grade levels with 4 and 2 grade levels with 5.
Okay, so to get dedicated social science, science, math, ELA, writing.
Yeah.
We would require 2 more.
2.
Okay.
And what happens is you have bubble class situations. So, next year we're looking at 110. This year we're at 115. So we're gonna have 2 large groups coming up, and you're looking at, okay, if that group of 115 fifth graders now going to 6th grade, if we maintain with 4 teachers, you're looking at 29 kids in class, which I think is a lot. But we still have a group of 110 coming up from 4th grade to 5th grade. So it's like, if we move one, well, now we have 4 in 5th grade, we're going to need 1 anyways. One's going to have to move. And right now we have 5 in 7th grade, but one of them is shared between 7th and 8th grade because we only have 4 in 8th grade. Okay, so that I think 5 is a pretty solid number, but it's going to lay the foundation where we can be consistent from year to year and we're not bouncing people around. I do feel like that would be a pretty solid move for the sake of consistency.
And 7th and 8th grade, ELA and math are both double period.
They are.
Okay. What is math actually looking like in 7th and 8th grade? I know we've talked in the past a lot about, is 7th grade essentially what pre-algebra used to be? And, we essentially got 2 years of algebra, we just called pre-algebra and algebra 1, or?
Essentially, if you look at the standards and you look at the 7th and 8th grade standards, 7th grade would be more of a pre-algebra skill. 8th grade would be more of those algebra skills that would seep over. So the exponent rules and laws. I think the Pythagorean theorem, which it wouldn't necessarily be, it isn't an algebraic topic per se, but that finds its way in. It's kind of 8th grade. It's a hodgepodge of some algebraic concepts and geometric concepts. There's a slew of things there. But yeah, generally you could say 7th grade would be more pre-algebra, 8th grade would be more algebraic topics.
Okay, and I'll spill over. I'll ask you about algebra 1 because Mr. Wesley is here. Right.
He's with me, but we share. So
right, yeah. Okay.
Lots of sharing going on.
I think that's it.
Okay, looks like I'm officially requesting not to speak after Mike anymore. This guy could make
I apologize.
This guy could make a fortune going cross country for an hour and a half long TED talk. So, but all right. So,
flat tires tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, so with me tonight I have Mrs. Sellers, one of our high school guidance counselors, and Steve Major. He is our high school physics and physical science teacher. We've all sat in these meetings. There's a lot of questions about teacher to student ratio, scheduling questions, class sizes and cutoff numbers. We're going to go through all of everything, the issues that we're battling with, current issues we're facing with dual enrollment, and we're going to provide some recommendations on how to improve, and what our future outlooks look like. So right here, this is how we, and Mrs. Sellers, please interject anytime you feel necessary. This is our current staffing model, if you will, and why it is the way it is. So essentially, we'll go through, read the bullet points. There's a lot of information. We'll try and get through it as quickly as possible. We only have 1 teacher per subject area. Example, 1 English 9 teacher, 1 algebra teacher that we have to have, that's teach 1 specific class. We have 3 high school English teachers for 4 grade levels. We are limited by what teachers are certified to teach and what classes we can then offer based on their certifications. So they just don't necessarily hold like a K through 6 certification. There's a lot of specifics involved with the high school. Of the 27 teachers on the surface, 4 of those are special education and 3 are CTE specific teachers. So in all reality, 20 teachers are for our largest population of students aside from those specialty groups there. As we all know, CTE is a specialty group with a concentration. Core teachers, they might have bigger classes because they do see entire grade levels. And for example, physical science is a 9th grade requirement that they take with Mr. Major. But non-core teachers have some smaller classes because it's more of a specialty type class. So we're sharing staff. It makes it difficult to offer classes during certain periods, and half of the teachers are reading, the other half are in middle school, and we can only essentially offer 2 classes over lunch. And then for some classes, our intervention classes, our tested subjects, we like to keep those numbers lower so we can accomplish our tier 3 interventions, if you will, based on our CDT data, our tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. And we're pigeonholed with electives that are only offered for 1 period. A few examples of those are band, chorus, interventions, some AP, some honors. Those are what we consider singletons that are only offered in 1 period. We have to get all the kids that are signed up for them in 1 period, and it throws the rest of the scheduling off. Our high rigor kids must pick what classes they want to take because they can't fit everything into their schedule. We're putting kids in cyber math, for an example, to meet their needs so they can co-op and take their next level math course. Teachers have multiple preps, only 1 planning period, but that's pretty standard across the board. And we are experiencing now teachers are combining classes such as high-level subjects to meet students' needs. So you're going to see like AP Calc and Calc getting combined, or anatomy and physiology, their level honors class. Those are the things that are occurring that are throwing some wrenches in our scheduling. Next slide, please, Crystal. So I know that there's a lot of questions regarding what is our cutoff number for running a class? What is the magic number? So I'll give you a little background here. So for our core classes, we typically aim to keep our classes size at a maximum of 25 students per class period. This is consistent with local districts. I know actually some districts have a cap on how many students can be within a classroom at one time. For tested subject areas, as I mentioned, we like to keep the class sizes lower, less than 20 if able, so we can give that more one-on-one attention that's required for differentiation and interventions to student needs and support areas based on the CDT data. This enables us to specialize and individualize our instructional practices. So with that being said, there is no magic cutoff number, okay? So we don't say if there's less than 12 kids, we don't run it. It all depends on the per class. It's on an as-need, demand and availability basis. Our core classes are essentially standard. We recognize that some core classes may have 12 kids in one class and 25 in another class of the same subject and content area. This is because we only have 1 teacher per subject and content level, and many singleton classes that can only be offered at specific times throughout the day. So whereas a bigger school, for example, like a 4A type of school, they might have 2 teachers per subject content area, where we only have 1, or at least 2. Some schools, 3, 4, 5. Something as simple as this can create a large disparity between class sizes. So we need to think about this on a content basis rather than a grade level set number basis. Because if you divide our total number of students by 27, on the surface, it looks like we have 14 kids per teacher in a class. But that's not necessarily the way it works. And as I told you before, the 27 teachers that's recorded, really it's 20 of those that serve the largest population of students. So for example, we may need to cut a class from teacher number 1 that had 18 requests due to higher demand of other classes that teacher would take on in a schedule. We could run a class, say, such as robotics that might have 5 students if the demand is low for other classes in those content areas. So we're not going to say we're going to shut it off because there's less than 15 or 12 kids. We want to serve those kids too that request those classes if there is availability within that teacher's scope. So an AP course with 3 students, we can also run that if the teacher is available to accommodate them. We take the greatest number of students affected, the benefit for the greater good approach, but we also need to balance the needs of other students for specialized and advanced coursework in areas when we're able to. I think this really sums it up well. It really is a game of supply and demand with limited shelf space available at only a specific time throughout the day. I think that's a good way to put it. And we'll get into this in the next slide, but increasing the graduation requirements and ensuring they are taking place at SCA along with the rotating schedule, we feel we can absolutely close these gaps and disparities moving forward for scheduling for next year. Crystal, if you will, next one.
You want me to guess? Scheduling done.
Yeah. So
Okay,
Mr. Majewski, to answer your
so-
question at
So
this
for your
point.
question, Josh, how we do scheduling in the high school, and I'll use 8th grade specifically as the grade level. Mrs. Andrews and myself go into the 8th grade history class. We spend a period talking to the kiddos. We go over the course selection book. We go over retention. We go over all things because a lot is different going from the high school to the from the middle school to high school. Then what we have is we give the kiddos a deadline. It's usually 1 week from in the classroom and present. And they do their course selection online in the Sapphire software. Once that deadline hits, we then print out, there's a form that we use that will print out exactly the classes that they requested. They take that form home. They have a parent guardian review that form, sign off that they understand this is what my kiddo has requested. And we also have added a caveat this year that there are no schedule changes made after a certain date. And we'll get into that in a minute. Once those sheets come back, then what we do is we give Mr. Hynoski what's called a course request tally. So it's all the classes that we offer and how many kids. So then Mr. Hynoski will sit and he'll go, okay, I have 80 kids who want or are at Algebra 1. That means we have to offer at least 4 sections. And from there, he will construct individual teacher schedules. He'll then give them to Mrs. Andrews and I and say, okay, maybe last year we only had 3 sections of Algebra 1, but this year because of size, we need 4. So then we have to go into Sapphire and change what's called the master schedule. We roll it over every year. And then we go in and we tweak it. Okay, 3 Algebra 1s last year, we need 4 this year, or vice versa. And then the schedule is run. We have priorities set so that kids are put into those high priority classes first. The history, science, English, social studies. And then things like their electives have a lower priority. So a kid's not going to get bumped out of calc to get into cooking. It would be vice versa. Okay. And any scheduling system that you have is only as good as the framework that we set up in the beginning. And the framework we set up in the beginning is only as good as the assets we have to utilize. So for example, a kiddo might want high level classes, maybe some different AP classes, but they also want honors trigonometry. And I only have 1 period of honors trigonometry, and I only have 1 period of AP Euro. And they happen to be the same period. We then will look and see, okay, could we move one of those classes? Well, no, because then it's going to move 4 kids are going to lose the class because they have a scheduling conflict. So we look at greater good. Ultimately, it just kind of comes down to the amount of teachers that we have to utilize as far as like how good the Sapphire programming and scheduling is.
So a couple questions for understanding. So when we say we run the scheduler, what does it solve for us?
So the scheduler takes, if we were all students, it would take all of our requests and it would put them into a schedule based on the framework that we have created.
So does it move classes and teachers? Or it says, here's the class schedule, here are the periods that are taught by these teachers, and then here are the kids that want these things, and it just assigns them.
Yeah, it'll give you a report, an unsatisfied report, and then we'll look and we'll say.
But it doesn't move classes.
No.
Does it say Shannon can teach pre-calculus?
This is the heart of what I'm getting at. We're not using a true scheduling software. We're using a resource allocator. Okay, so we say, here's the schedule, which we manually created. And then we try to fit as many kids in there to maximize, whatever goal we're trying to meet, but, with the different classes and all those restrictions, right? Techniques and software exist that says, here's the teachers we have with what certifications they have. Here's the number of periods in a day we have at what time. Teachers have to eat at some period of the day, and that can only be between here and here, right? Like you can set constraints on these different things. If I want a specific class can only occur in one period, you set that constraint, and that, but you try to minimize those types of constraints so that things can get moved around, right? And then you take all the student wants, and you might even let them rank their wants in some ordered list, right? And then you throw it all into the system, and it actually moves periods and says, you can set a constraint that says a maximum of 25 kids in this type of class, a maximum of 20 kids in this type of class, right? Or maybe no limit in others. And it will find, if a feasible solution exists, it will find the optimal solution, not just a feasible, it'll find the optimal solution if at least one feasible
So
solution.
it does allow students to rank, and we do set class.
Right, but where we fail in this process, and it's because of the software we're using, it's not your fault, that's how the software works that we have. Where we fail is this class is at this time, and that conflicts with this class at this time, and the kid wants both. And we only have them offered at one point in the day. And that's because that's what Mr. Hajnowski sat down and scheduled. He said, this is when this will be, and this is when this will be. And that's how the master schedule was built. And then we're trying to assign the kids to it. What I am talking about is a solution that would not restrict that, and it would allow the system to place the classes in the most optimal way to maximize the number of kids who got what they want based on whatever constraints and prioritization.
So just to clarify, so I don't set what time the class is going to be. I just simply say how many classes I want to run. So the computer or the scheduler determines what time that.
I thought you just said it didn't.
No, what happens is we look at the class, like he'll say, I need 3 algebras. Then we look at the teacher and we say, okay, where can I put 3 algebras? If most of my 9th grade kids are obviously in English 9 and physical science, I need to have them spread out in a way that kids can get all 4. We can look and see if Sapphire does allow. We've never done it that way.
So but Mr. Hajnowski is saying we don't set the time. You're saying that you do set the time.
He does not.
Okay, but it is set
We do,
manually.
yes.
So I don't really care who sets it. I don't care if Jill sets it. I don't care if Mr. Kiefer comes over to help that day. He sets it or Cindy comes in. The system doesn't set it. It's a human who has some preconceived notion of what the right answer is, but is absolutely going to get it wrong, regardless of who they are. They're going to get it wrong.
Correct.
Right? Like that's the whole idea behind an optimization algorithm, is that humans will almost never get a complex system correct. Or will not find, they may find a feasible solution, which is what you do. And it often takes us a long time to even find a feasible solution by hand. And then we say, oh my goodness, there's no way we're going to get to anything better than this. And we stop because we're out of time and we're already 2 weeks into the school year sometimes, right? So what I'm proposing is, can we find some software? Like I have been told that Sapphire does it. And then I have been told absolutely not, it cannot, this is ridiculous to even assume it might do it. So if we have the software that does it, I think it would completely change all of the discussions we had tonight after the MTSS and social, and like all of the principal discussions would change dramatically.
Well, yes and no, but then we're still limited by common staff.
Correct. We would still be limited.
We're still going to have kiddos that are limited by higher.
Right, and we will always be limited.
Right.
What I am getting at is we are nowhere near an optimal utilization of our people, of our time during the day, right? And we don't. So who gets to decide what is more important, right? Like that's the point. And we never have those kinds of discussions at this level, which is where I think it should occur, because we spend all of our time trying to find a solution that works. And then it's like, oh my goodness, we're in a school year and that's it. Like, if we had software that would do this in literally seconds, once you feed it the data, you could run it a million times, right?
Well, the other thing that we do is, let's say there's 20 kids who want physics and we run it and only 2 kids get in. We get a report that'll say 18 kids have an unsatisfied request and it'll show us who those kids are. We then look and we're like, well, is there a common denominator? Oh yeah. And all 18 of these kids are in honors math, which is happening the same period. Okay, move that honors math. We move the math, we rerun the calculations.
Right.
I am all for a scheduling program that
I think that is worth
it.
Doesn't though. The program will highlight all the errors that you then need to fix.
Right. And we're going to manually go back and try again and get all kinds of new errors. Right. And then we're going to say, oh, were these better than those errors? And what I am proposing is that we find software, we spend a day, and that's what everybody does, because it would solve this conversation that we have over and over and the frustrations that we have with we don't have enough people to do these things. We're never going to have enough teachers. That there's no world where we're going to have enough teachers to do everything we want to do. We're never going to be able to offer everything that we would like to offer. I would like to maximize the chance that our students get to take the courses that they want and need within the constraints that we are given, right? And we're not doing that. We're making a heck of an effort at it, and I appreciate the effort that is being made. And this is not a criticism of the team or the approach that has been made. My point is, I want to find the resources to give you to free up this block of time so that we can focus on the actual thing that you should be doing is like, what classes should you be in and what classes should we be offering, not how do we squeeze everybody into what we have said we're going to be able to do, right? Like, so I would propose that we find that software, and I don't really care what it costs. If it's a one-time cost, because it will solve the next decade of this conversation that we keep having. Like it is an investment that is worth 4 or 5. It's worth a lot of other things that we'd argue about here.
I agree. If we're willing to spend the money on it, I agree.
So then that would be going to a completely different SIS?
Well, no, I think it would be, I think it would be separate of stuff.
So I am not well versed in what academic scheduling software exists to optimize schedule choices and assignments. I can guarantee you that they exist. I don't know what they would cost. I also, like I said, I think it's probably worth whatever they do cost. I would be happy to help in the determination of what software to use if we think this is worthwhile. Just because I'm saying it forcefully doesn't mean it's the right answer. I think it's the right answer, but if we don't think this is the right answer, somebody needs to say that now.
If we have the ability to do it and willing to spend the money, I think it is.
We can contact Sapphire tomorrow. It could be that there is something that we just don't utilize within the system that could be the answer you're looking for.
And this is the most important part of this entire discussion to me. To everything that we are talking about, for the inability to provide classes for kids that they want to take, comes down to do we have the resources? And then if we do have the resources, are we utilizing them effectively, right? And once we know that we are actually at a real constraint, or we're actually maximizing the utilization of the resources we have here in the most optimal way that we can possibly do that, then it's a real discussion of what should we add. I think there's been a lot of concern, and it comes from the board or the public at large as to, are we effectively utilizing our resources, right? And that's the discussion of class sizes is an easy way to look at that, right? And so you see 12 kids in a class, why are we offering that when we want to offer these other? I don't know if that's the right answer, right? But that's an easy metric that is looked at. If we were optimizing the schedule and saying, okay, well, this is providing the most good, right? Maximizing the utility of the student choices. And this is what laid out, then that's a different discussion than this is what we ended up with because this is how we figured it out, right? Like, so
I hope that's not the answer, because we have for years had this discussion in public meetings about the scheduler and Sapphire. So if we've had administrators sit here for years who haven't investigated whether Sapphire has these capabilities or not, then I think that is the failure of some people at these tables. So I hope it's not the solution.
I'm fairly certain it doesn't. It'll optimize, analyze, but it will not change a master. That's something.
And that's
to be
like,
easier.
this software exists. I studied it for a long period of time, not for academic settings, but for settings that are much more complex, like airlines and airline crews, and it exists. We just need to find the one that actually does the things that I'm talking about. Something that either uses a linear program as the underlying model, or some close approximation with some heuristics to cut off some branch of the solution set so you can make it more solvable. Google OR tools online probably does it for free, but you'd have to build software to go with it, and I'm not volunteering to do that. So I suggest.
What was that?
Yes, exactly.
I wonder if there'll be difficulty with whatever that program is, with that then dumping that data back into Sapphire.
I'm sure we'll be able to solve that part of it, like the back and forth, because I know Sapphire can import and export data, and we would just we may have to build our own intermediate converter, and that I'm not worried about that part. Finding a software that solves this part of the problem is, I think, the critical component to having any discussion about, do we need more teachers or do we not? Do we need more of this or do we need more of that? And if you actually use an effective optimization tool, it's going to provide solutions that you're going to look at sometimes and say, this doesn't even make sense to me, until you actually look at it and say, I'd have never thought of that, but that is genius, right? Like,
That's the key word for Sapphire on that phone call, is optimization. Because if you Google Sapphire, it says it manages. It mentions nothing in here about optimizing.
I'm almost 99% sure Sapphire does not do that. I don't want to, but what Sapphire does is what Mike said. You're creating the master, and
Right.
then you're feeding the information. It doesn't do what you're saying.
Yeah.
I won't sit here and say I'm 100% sure, but from everything
I'm
I
pretty
know
sure it
about
does
it, it does not do that.
we have asked, I hope it does not, because like Bree said, this isn't the first time this has come up. Like, we have asked this every year, because every year when we get into a discussion about scheduling and how long it takes and all the frustrations that go into it, it's like, it should be challenging, but it shouldn't be challenging because we're trying to solve the manual placement of where things go. The challenge should be having discussions of the trade-offs and trying to figure out what kids should be taking, right? Like that. Unless I'm wrong. So please tell me I'm wrong if I'm way off base here. But like,
If there's something that does it quicker, smarter, faster, I am all for it.
I just sent an email with 6 different options that Brock spit out.
I know they exist. Thank you. So somebody's like, I don't want to solve it. So it's like, I am willing to help look through it and critically assess whether this is better than this, and whether it's worth an extra 10 grand or whatever the differences are. But it really should come from the people who are going to use it. But that's what you're looking for, is something that will take all of the inputs and optimize the schedule, not just the placement of kids into classes, but what classes are even being offered. Like, and you shouldn't even have to decide we're going to offer 3 algebra classes. You should say, I want a maximum of X number of kids, right? And you run it. And then if you don't like that, then you can change those constraints, and really good software should even tell you when you're up against a boundary, what you should be willing to pay for, in terms of whatever you're optimizing by, what you should be willing to pay for one additional unit. Like, if I relax it from 25 to 26 kids, well, I free up all this other stuff in the schedule, right? Like, these tools exist. There's an entire field built around this.
So so for instance, at a previous district that I was at, and I know another district does this, so the way they input it into their learning management system is they do it in Excel, and that's how they get,
So, I mean, Excel actually has the capability to do limited amount of optimization. The problem with Excel, you could build a linear program to solve this. You're going to be limited in the number of variables.
Right.
We will very rapidly exceed that.
And it would only run with like 75% accuracy, and then you have to just go and manually do it anyways from there, so.
But I'm sorry to derail this.
No.
This is, to me, this is the most important discussion that we always gloss over. Because we just say, oh, well, Sapphire will do it and we'll get back to you, or we know it won't do it, and then it just dies because then we move on, right? If we could stop having this discussion. So I'll stop.
No, we'll get together and figure out what the best option is.
What administrator owns Sapphire?
Janae.
Who supervises Janae? Like, who above Janae? Who sits at this table can answer these things? Anybody?
No. I mean, technically she falls underneath Chris.
Why doesn't she fall under Brian? Like, I don't understand why our student information systems don't fall under that. Like,
Yeah, so I think there's a whole lot of questions that have been brought up here, and there's a whole lot of things that need to be looked into. I am by no means a Sapphire guru. I used Sapphire when I was in Danville. I will tell you, from working in a large district to a small district, everything I've ever heard when I worked over at Benton, which is even smaller than here, is no matter what software system they used, because of the constraints that you have of certifications of teacher and the number of kids requesting, it goes back to what Jenna is just describing, that then we tried 3 different ones over in Benton and we ended up hand doing it anyways because the system would say to do this and it didn't do that right, and this person didn't have this certification and this kid wants this. So then you were running classes, not saying it wouldn't do it, Josh, but then what it was doing is we were running classes with maybe 1 to 2 kids in it.
So my comment on that was I have no idea what the software is, but if it is true optimization software, then you're just not feeding it the right inputs. Like that would be the trick, right? Like if that is a concern, you set a minimum and say, I'm not running a class with less than 6 kids.
Sure. So that's
Don't
what
even schedule it.
we did at Danville. With them, what was happening is kids wouldn't get the classes that they wanted. So then you were running into, well, I'll give my kid a GIEP then so that they can get the classes they want because we're not offering them.
So there is no way that implementing a high quality optimization software and doing it with fidelity will lead to a worse outcome than what we are doing now. There's just no world where if it is used effectively or correctly, there's no way that you could be worse off than what we're doing now. So again, like maybe we just would need to have appropriate training, or maybe we would need somebody who is knowledgeable about how to use optimization algorithms and what is underlying, like come in and do the training or like get everybody used to it. But the math doesn't lie. Like there's no way that like you just have, it only works as well as the model that you define and what you feed it. That's how all algorithms will work. But if you accurately and adequately define your system, the scheduling constraints, to actually think about what you want to do. And that would be my other comment on that. These are the things in the outside world, they'd be called business rules that you want to apply. Like what business rules are we applying in each of these cases? And that would be, what is more important? If I have to choose between these 3 classes, what are their ranks, right? And you try not to ever have to choose between them, but if you are forced to, then the system has some way to choose. And that was a conscious decision rather than just forced on us when we couldn't figure out somewhere to shove it in the schedule.
The other part of it would be too, making requirements, which we don't have. So like you have to take our English class or you have to take our science class. That's kind of been a piece of this as well, is you could just do whatever you want. And that doesn't help us. And we see that it's not helping us, which is further along in this presentation. But there's also that piece of the puzzle as well. Is at Southern, like I've never worked in a district where you didn't say to a kid, you have to take this, this, and this from Danville or from Benton. You can't just go do whatever you want to do. Here, you just go do whatever you want to do. And we say, oh, we hope that works out for you. So you failed at the college level. And now it's our job, Jenna, go find an English class to put that kid into. And that is a huge problem, that there's no criteria.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous and we should fix that right now. Like, so like, whatever your proposal is,
we're gonna get into that right now. This is the big stuff.
So, and just moving that along, I just want to say, just so everybody's clear, like, once we determine that we have the least resources necessary to meet what, care if it's one person. Like, if we're going to send them over to lunch duty and that kid doesn't get to take AP World History, I'd rather him take AP World History. So just so you know, like, that minimum is only a concern when we say, well, do we have too many resources, right?
And we recognize it. We're not gonna,
then it's okay.
yeah, we're gonna give every kid the best opportunity to get what they want and for success that we absolutely possibly could. Now, this might make a big difference if we get the software. We might be able to accommodate some more kids. We can go to the next one here. So if you guys have questions, so this is on current student numbers and class sizes. As you can see, I couldn't put this on a slideshow. So if anybody wants any specifics about any class and the class sizes, we can answer that for you right now. So if you does anybody want to know a certain teacher or a certain class with their?
Well, you said they're right around 20 or less for the rest of the courses. Is that what you said?
Well, we tried 25, but like the intervention courses, and like your higher level courses and like your keystone prep courses, we try to keep it down to 20, less than 20 if we could.
Do you have any classes that are over 25?
Over 25.
You know, I mean, if you don't know off the top of your head, we don't have to waste time to look
I
at
think
it.
there might be one that's 26. Is that
I was gonna say, I knew.
But we don't have any that are 30 or 30
No.
or anything like that, that for some reason we
might-
had to put that many in a schedule first.
No.
Seventh
We
period.
might have a couple histories that over the lunches are high, again, because we don't have as much staff over lunches. But we don't have anything in the 30s.
Like right now.
Maybe we have one PE class, but again, that's a different ball.
That's.
Yeah, so like I'm looking just here, like office apps, you know, there's 18 across the board, 17 across the board for period 2, period 3, 21, period 4, 16. So the disparities aren't that huge, but there are classes that occur in some contexts where it does happen. Absolutely. So, does anybody else have any specifics regarding classes, class size, any? No.
I think if you send it as a PDF, put it on the Friday letter, just so we have it to look at the big picture.
So it's each teacher's schedule, and then it gives you the name of the class, and it gives you how many seats are taken. I think, yes, it's taken.
Henry gave it to us last year.
Yeah. So another discussion that we had collectively, as guidance and department heads and Crystal and I, we did discuss longer class periods. The way we could do this, we thought about, making, like, eliminating a whole period, which would add 5 or 6 more minutes to the other periods throughout the day. But that ultimately affects the students' ability to maximize their scheduling and our offerings available to them. We got mixed reports and inconsistent experiences from other districts with block scheduling. Teachers mentioned attention span concerns. If we increase our in-house requirements, we need more time slots and offering. And we're already trying to make some changes here with our in-house offerings and requirements. So if we make these changes, let's see how we do with a year under the current setup before we dive into extending it. But this is where we're at now, that we all collectively feel from the department heads through guidance, Crystal and myself, that keep the schedule of classes as is for right now. Next, please.
Can
Yeah.
I ask you one question there?
Yeah.
If we went from 8 to 3, you'd be able to have 9 equal 43-minute periods. So lunch would be a period.
Half-hour lunch, yes.
It'd be a 43-minute lunch. If you went from 8 to 3 with students, does that help you that now you don't have to worry about the students on a lunch schedule, so they can't really go to 5th period? So they're on a different schedule than the rest of 5th period?
I mean, so that really comes down to our minutes and the PD requirements, and hours, total hours.
But it'd be an increase. So today we're at 6.8, we're 802 to 250, right?
I mean, any extra time, it's 802 to 250. Any extra time we have, absolutely, like, it would help in.
So if you do 9 periods, right now you're 8 with a short lunch, you'd have 9 with a full lunch. So there's 3 lunch periods that then screw up scheduling for who's in A, B, or C because it's a short period. That whole issue goes away.
Yeah, well, that would have to be, you know, if we're gonna, I would think that would have to be like a board vote if we're gonna change the time of day and stuff, right? Cause I'm not sure.
Before I would suggest that, like, I just wanna know your honest feedback, like, does that unlock tools for you?
What do you think, Mike?
I guess I could.
I know we always talk about.
I would need to look at it. I mean, honestly,
it's
I
tough
know
to-
off the cuff, but
Anytime you offer more time, yeah, like, but we, like, I think we just need time to look into it and
so you're
really
saying
get.
no multiple lunch periods or like how would that?
You take the extra 12 minutes and put it into lunch, so you have 9 equal length 33-minute periods. So when there.
But we would still have an A, B, and C lunch. We would still have
Right,
3 lunches.
your regular periods, that they're on the same schedule coming out of lunch as everybody who's on a different lunch.
Yeah, because right now there's that bell when lunch ends, but kids stay in class for 12
Right.
more minutes.
So fourth and fifth period lunch.
Instead of there not being an overlap, I think that would definitely take back on some of the confusion for sure with the overlaps, absolutely.
Yeah, I just asked, I mean, that's how it used to run here, right? And it just, it made, from when we went from 4 short lunches to 3 longer lunches, scheduling got so much easier. You can take more classes because you weren't set off and meant to be in the C lunch until 7th period.
Can we get everyone in 3 lunches?
What do we have right now? Do we have 4?
We have 3.
3 lunches, but
So
we
you have
created
lunches
a
that are
4th
longer.
lunch.
Yeah, there's 4 then, right?
We've created a 4th lunch, but
Yeah.
it's not a designated, it's not technically a,
Right.
it's not identified on the high school schedule, I don't think, as being a lunch. There's still, if you look at the schedule, it's gonna say lunch A, B, and C. Lunch A has traditionally been middle school lunch. The issue being, we can't put 4 grade levels of kids in there during that half-hour period of time.
Right.
So what we do is we schedule either in the buffers and try to like have kind of a free calf and kind of other kids in there, or we do it before or after all the lunches take off. And that's what we've traditionally done here. We've done to try to remedy that. So
Lunches aren't an issue for me. It all comes down, because he really technically only has 1 lunch. I have 2, you know?
So that would be the question. If a longer lunch lets you get all 8 grades through 3 lunches, I don't know how it makes scheduling worse, right? Just be blunt. Like, there's no way that having a lunch in the same period where then kids can move in and out at 6 and 7 makes it worse. So the real question is, can we do that with lunch? It seems like we could.
I want to look at it more, but like on the surface, just thinking, I don't think it'll affect anything negatively.
No, I mean, if we do 3 lunches, would that look like middle school has 1? And then we let 9 through 12 free flow in the other 2? Or would you do free flow 5 through 12 for 3
I
lunches?
think you're gonna intentionally schedule 5th and 6th to be in the first one. And you're gonna aim to put 7th in either the first or the second, 8th and 9th, generally the second,
To do.
10 through 12 mostly.
We had talked
You're not
about
gonna restrict it to that.
Yeah.
We had talked about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you know?
And part of the reason why we looked at that C lunch for that 6th grade spot, because typically there's not a lot of kids in there. You know, a lot of those 11th to 12th grade students are on co-op or they're elsewhere. So we looked at like the enrollment as far as the number of kids that would be in there. And then we obviously created a situation where they're not mixing and mingling. We have our 6th graders in a spot, we have our, 10 through 12 or 11 and 12 in a different area. So we still have some separation, but the numbers are more reasonable. It's not crowded by any means.
Right.
3 is too many though. Putting 3 grade levels in a lunch, middle school grade levels where you have 100 to 115 in most cases, minus 6th grade, which is, almost 80. You're still pushing 100. You're going to have 200, 300 kids in there. 300 kids is way too many. When I first came over here, in Southern in the middle school, we actually ran a lunch where we had 3 grade levels in there at one time. We utilized Hazlitt Hall and filled the entire cafeteria, and it was way too many kids. You essentially need 2 separate lunches just to accommodate middle school.
We move on? Okay, so our proposal is here, what we would like to see from our discussions. We want to make the case for in-house graduation requirements. All graduation requirements must be completed in-house. This allows us to be able to fill seats in classrooms. It enables us to feature higher level in-house courses such as AP,
equal or greater academic rigor and challenge based on teacher experience and student experience. I have an email here from a student that is currently at an Ivy League school that said he had a much greater experience and preparation for college by completing our AP courses than the dual enrollment courses. It's in much greater detail, dual enrollment, surface level stuff, AP courses down to the concrete.
Dual enrollment being
like ACE or Lackawanna,
going to Lackawanna and Blum.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Just make sure we're all in sync.
Yes.
All right.
Some of the other feedback, many students are not mature, disciplined enough for that level of independence. It's a safer environment at the high school level for students to recover from their mistakes and learning gaps. And we do have the need for a sequential movement and progression to achieve the full scopes of the content within our building. Therefore, ultimately it will reduce gaps in academic engagement. We need consistent curriculum and alignment with our state standards established by the PDE. These college level courses leave gaps in many important skills because content and expectations vary. Keeps a strong sense of community by having our students in the building and school culture. We need our older kids to lead and set the example for our younger kids. More elective offerings to build our 21st century skills and modern career pathways. Creates greater opportunities for students to participate in career pathway coursework and unified arts offerings. The district can receive CTE subsidy money based on the number of students enrolled, and they need to be in the building in order for us to recapture those subsidies. It allows for full participation in sequenced CTE coursework with hands-on learning and work-based learning. And we want to make a point, though, that dual enrollment does remain as available as a supplemental opportunity for enrichment, acceleration, and specialized coursework as supported and defined by the PDE. So ultimately, by staying in-house, and these are the most important points, we can ensure that every graduate meets the high expectations and meet our district goals, and it protects the integrity. This is very important. Protects the integrity of the SCA diploma. Our graduates will meet rigorous district approved standards under our supervision, and we have say and control over their education. Next, please. And Mrs. Sellers. So these are just some of the, I'm gonna have Mrs. Sellers speak on this. These are just some of the issues that we've all experienced, most particularly in the guidance office regarding issues with our college level courses and dual enrollment.
Yes, we currently have students out for dual enrollment at both Luzerne County and Commonwealth University. We do have currently 3 juniors who are out full-time at Commonwealth. They were not able to get their requirements in, not their cores or their PE and health, which is a requirement for junior year. Excuse me. We don't have control over the scheduling the course classes. That's obvious. And what happens, quite frankly, is, I don't think the college is set out to, not do a good job when it comes to dual enrollment. But quite frankly, it has gotten so large. They have so many students in dual enrollment. They are not able to give them the kind of care that they really need. So for example, here with the availability of classes, Commonwealth, for instance, will schedule their students, their full-time students, and then the dual enrollment kiddos get seats in classes that are left. It might not really be classes that our kids want and or need, but they just get what is left for them. Currently, when kids go to college, they're considered adults. So the university does not let us know that kids have added or dropped classes. We have that students need to take 3 college classes in the fall and in the spring to be full-time, 3 credit courses. But what might happen is that a kiddo drops a class, never tells us. We get the grades in December and they're only in 2 classes. We had that happen this year. So the colleges are not giving us that information.
And now they're not full-time, and then there's eligibility issues.
What are the consequences if they don't tell us? If the kids don't tell us?
I mean,
what do we do in those cases?
currently,
Nothing.
we have nothing to worry with them. But it affects not only, full-time in school, but it also affects if they are an athlete, they have to be full-time to meet PIAA requirements. So, you know, on the backside, I guess we could get into some issues there. The university partner doesn't reach out, even though we have made it very clear that students cannot drop or add merely through them. It has to come through the school.
I'm sorry.
No.
So say somebody dropped a course and didn't tell us, and then we find out at the end of the semester, are they allowed to continue in the next semester?
Currently, yes.
Okay.
And again,
Seems like there's pretty
these are
simple
holes
solutions.
that we want to, we need to close. Our partner LCCC, we have met with them. We've brought them on campus. We have made suggestions to them about, making an Excel sheet that has all of the enrollments in there. They have not taken us up on that suggestion. We send the registrations to them. Quite frankly, they become messed up. We have kids coming into the guidance office. It is not an exaggeration to say daily we're looking at a dozen email or student interactions regarding an issue with Luzerne. They're getting emails like, hey, I have to take a placement test, but when I go on Blackboard, it doesn't even show I'm scheduled for the class. And then we call to figure that out and find out 5 other kids who were also supposed to be taking it. They don't have their registration paperwork, even though we have the email proof it's been sent.
And we brought them in and spoke with them. So we had their head person come in and meet with Crystal, myself, Henry, Jenna. We sat in the district office and met with them, and they basically told us, unfortunately, we're understaffed. We have a lot of pressure. We're sorry about this. We don't have teachers. We'll try to make it better. And it goes back to, if we don't have the criteria, these kids can just go do whatever they want to do, and we don't have control over it.
And at this point, we're really kind of being like complicit in these kids falling through the cracks. Quite frankly, the education is not similar. We have kids scheduled right now for an English class. I believe that's a comp English. It's the exact same class, but there are 2 separate professors. We have students who want to drop the one professor because they are being made to do 3-4 quizzes in a 3-day span. The other professor only has them write 3 paragraphs during the week. I mean, we have no control, where, when you look at a kiddo, if they did an AP class, that is a standardized, rigorous curriculum that is recognized coast to coast.
So once the kid registers at the college, we wipe our hands of it. We don't look back.
Well, we're not like what we.
But I'm saying, like, you registered for the class. We don't look at it ever again.
No, it's not
until
that we
December.
don't. No, it's not that we don't look at it. We don't have access to look at it. So we bring Bloomsburg University in. Kendra Rockwell is our dual enrollment partner. We have her set with students and parents during the school day and schedule them. And they walk out. Tommy walks out with, these are my 4 classes. And we have a copy of what Tommy's schedule is. So that's fine. The problem is that a week later, Tommy decides, I don't want to take this class. He calls the university and drops it. No one tells us.
At that point in time,
And-
we can't be in dual enrollment.
And it's not like we can, and listen,
But we don't know.
I get that, and I am all for that. Trust me, we want to tighten this up, but we need the support of everyone, that when we call that parent and say, Tommy broke the rules, and to be clear, we have a dual enrollment meeting with all students and parents. They sign the contract stating all of these things. We just need the backing that when we tell Tommy you're out of dual enrollment, like, he's out of dual enrollment.
Is there a reason to think that you wouldn't have that backing from the current administration or this board?
I have some concerns.
Based on what?
My 19 years of being here.
Okay, so the current administration has largely been here for less than 5. The current board has been here for less than 5. I've only been on the board for 5. So I would say that anybody who's been paying attention, do you have concerns that the board would not back? If Mr. Hynoski had followed through on the contract with any of these individuals and said, you may not continue in this program, and oh, by the way, you're also ineligible for sports because here's the PDE requirements. There is,
that's what we have to do.
Is there any world where you don't think that you would have the support of nearly the entire board, if not the entire board?
But I think what's happening, Josh and Jen or Henry, you can chime in if I'm wrong. I think what happens is we don't find out about it in a timely manner. We find out about it like months later, and then they're coming to us and saying, can you get us in an English class because we know we need this requirement, and there's this lapse of time. So I think there has to be, and this is some of the conversation that Crystal and I have had, there has to be better communication with this dual enrollment. This is happening with my niece right now in a different school district. Same thing, registered for the course, couldn't get on the course, had to drop the course. This is a problem across the board.
Every week, every month, have the students self-certify. They have to tell us that they're still in the course. And then if they lie to us, then there's real consequence on top of that.
There
Like,
has to be a checklist because there still are kids.
just solve, like,
So what happens is they're going out and they're just doing whatever they want, and then we're not hearing about it until,
right. So if
if
that's
it's
the
a
problem.
week later, it's easy. I think it's the months later where it's the problem.
So I think we solve that with very simple things, like what,
I do too.
I,
There has to be criteria. There has to be, this is, you sign a contract that says if you're in
But-
dual enrollment and you drop the course.
so why has that not been done already? Is my question, right? Like, why have we not already taken these actions? Why has that suggestion not come up before this point? If it's that big of a deal, why is this the first that we're hearing of this at this level, right? And then to have a comment that you don't think you would have the support of the board or the administration to actually follow through and hold someone accountable, I think that's ridiculous.
I can't say what has happened here in the past.
Again, I am just being honest, and I'm not even speaking of any of the current administration. I've been told by previous administration, why would you stop them? From
Yes, and those administrators were fired. Those administrators are no longer here. That is my point. So
The question was the current
the
administration.
current administration, the current board, I don't know how to be any more clear on this. Like, it is no longer acceptable to say, oh, I can't do my job because I won't have the support of the people above me if I do my job. If you don't do your job or you don't come to the people above you, there's no way for us to know that that is your concern. So that is ridiculous, in my opinion.
But I think that's why we are bringing this now, because
Sure. So the
You know-
solutions are pretty straightforward. Don't require any new policies, in my opinion. I feel they can all be done with procedure,
Absolutely.
administrative procedures that Mr. Hynoski or even Mrs. Sellers could handle on their own. That frankly, I have questions about why they haven't been done. And I would like to have a follow-up conversation about why they have not already been done. Because we are absolutely failing our kids if this is the state of affairs.
So, to be clear, you would absolutely have my support.
that's awesome.
I'm not getting anybody work, right? To absolutely drop the hammer on, up to, you're out of luck, guess you're repeating this year.
Yeah.
It's on you, not us to solve the problem.
You did this and your parents know about it and whoever knows about it, well, good, then you get to repeat 11th grade.
Right, so I know we have part of the card in front of the work, I know there's reports to maybe walk back, hey, the core classes have to be taken here. So I have to get to that too, but I'm, regardless of that piece, they say they're taking this class and they break that, drop the hammer. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to convey. Just more animated than Mr. Hynoski.
Like the last point here where at Commonwealth, we had 4 students did not meet their policy, but they openly accepted 3 of them to come back. And they only said 1 should return to the district. They would not say, nope, we're gonna follow our policy and take all 4. All 4 need to come back to the city.
Money in there.
Correct, and that's what I mean, like, we need to be the adults in the room and not be complicit in them getting to cash another check.
And quite honestly, we were ready to pull them and we said to, and Bloom was, we'll take it back. And we're like, well, you have to send that email then because you're breaking your policy. And they did.
Why don't we just drop LCCC? Like, what do we
So-
need for that special? What opportunities do our kids lose if we just say, we're done with you?
Yeah, so,
Until you get your act together.
well,
They do offer, I think, probably more online classes, which some of our kiddos do take during a study hall time, and they're asynchronous, meaning the kids can get on and do them. I don't want to say at their leisure, but you know, that there's not a certain time they have to get on. I agree. I think one thing that we would really like to do, and I think, again, I'm probably getting ahead, is by saying to kiddos, you take all your required courses here, that we have eyeballs on you. I know you haven't dropped a course because I didn't drop it for you. I know how you're doing because I can go in minute to minute and look at your grades. That I think is really important for us to kind of take back that control and still say, if you want to take, you know, a psych, a soc, a public speaking class at the university, that's perfectly fine. But that's above your Southern, you know, requirements.
Let's go ahead and get to that part of the recommendation and then redo this. Should we completely drop something up to that part after, but like get to recommendation?
Is that after?
Yeah, that's common. So
So this is just kind of a breakdown of some of the issues that we had this year. And again, I won't go into all of them. But we had 3 kiddos had to withdraw from 4 classes. 3 students failed a total of 7 classes. Again, I think there's kids that we would not necessarily recommend go and do dual enrollment, but Bloom accepts them. So again, if we look at them taking their major courses here, I think that would be very helpful. Just want to see.
Right now, if somebody wants to dual enroll, the only requirement is that Bloom or someone accepts them.
Correct.
We have no independent check whatsoever.
No. Correct. We have in the past.
Yeah. Where did it go? Why did we stop that?
I mean,
Who decided to
I'm just
stop
thinking
that?
out loud. Dropping the courses or receiving Ds or withdrawing at the last minute and things like that. A requirement for certain level of student and responsibility before going into that should be met, because again, you're going into an adult setting. If you're too immature to be in that adult setting, we shouldn't be saying, oh, go ahead into it, because they're going to drop it December 1st and went through the whole year and dropped it December 1st. And then, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't have to deal with that.
And again, at the risk of,
Like,
you know,
I think there's
temper flaring, it was got away from because we were told that if the university accepts them, how can we say no?
Told by who? But that's my question.
I'm not going to name names, but I
want you to name names.
Say that I was someone saying we can say that because we're the school.
I'm asking you as a board member, who told you that? Because it definitely didn't come from the board.
It was Mr. Becker.
As superintendent or as principal? In which role?
I would be honest, I'm not sure.
I guarantee it wasn't while he was superintendent.
It may have been when he was principal. I don't know.
To be clear, that is wrong. And
I agree.
that kind of, like, that is the type of thing where you raise your hand and you come around to the people who can actually make decisions and say, I cannot believe that this is what you're telling me. Like, that's where people need to speak up and take responsibility as an adult who is responsible for the care of our children. Because this is the state of affairs, all because at some point, someone said, what are we to do?
And Josh, I would say that this was the point of tonight as a whole, is to be transparent and let you as board members and as a community know what is going on in our curriculum, K through 12, and be transparent and talk about this, because I can tell you, I'm not saying, you know, you could say to me, well, Jill, you've been here since August. How did you let this go on? You knew that this was going on. I'll just be honest with you. I haven't had the time to spend on, look, I know this needs to change. Okay. There's not a doubt in my mind that our criteria at our high school needs to change, even just in briefly talking to some of the lead teachers and hearing from them and talking to the counseling department. This has been something that has been let go on. So our job now is to put criteria in place to say, we know this isn't right. I agree. I think, I don't know, it was Drew or Josh. One of you just said, it's very simple. A 9th grader isn't mature enough. We had a 9th grader sign up for dentistry at Luzerne. And when we were sitting there, we were like, what? And the lady was like, they can't take dentistry. And we're like, how does that even happen? That's what led me to ask further questions to say, how does this even happen? It's because our kids have been allowed to just pick whatever they want to do. That's just the truth of it. That's where we're at. We know that that can't happen. So for next school year, we know it's simple to put this criteria in place. You have to take these courses at Southern High School.
I agree that we need to fix it, and I appreciate the transparency here. to be absolutely clear, the level of frustration that I'm displaying is with the adults who have been complicit in this for some period of time. If we're talking about when Mr. Becker was the principal of the high school, that predates me joining the board 5 or 6 years ago. So for 6 years, we have allowed this to persist, all because we were told that what are we to do if the university accepts them? I have serious concerns about what else might be going on if that is the case, because it calls into question a whole lot of things about professional judgment.
So to be clear, right, if anybody has one of those moments where they go, I can't believe I'm being told X, right? Come and speak to us. My first question is gonna be, okay, did you talk to your principal? Were they able to resolve it? If you haven't, I'm gonna say, you gotta go give them a chance to resolve it. Say, I did. They're as crazy as the person who told me. And I'll say, have you talked to Jill? She's a little less crazy, maybe not a lot. And if you say, yeah, no, she's even worse, then we'll have a full conversation about it, right? But please don't ever sit there and think, different people have different opinions, right? And so we may all just have a roadblock, right? Henry might say, well, I can't, I'm being told X. Well, then maybe I need to change X for, right? Maybe Joe needs to change X, right? So I'll always tell you running up the line, but please, please, please don't let it die with this thought in your head of this is absolute insanity. Oh, well.
I think when we look at dual enrollment, AP, high school, I think we have to look, and especially going through this as a parent for a senior, like we have to look at what rigor looks like here. Kids are thinking dual enrollment is rigor. Colleges will not accept dual, MIT won't take any dual enrollment.
We've had this conversation at length. They'll take an AP course. They will not take a physics or math.
Because of a national standard of AP. Dual enrollment, they know, and coming from higher ed, I used to look at kids coming in as an academic advisor and admissions. You would see them having that and you'd be going, okay, you pull that out and you look at what they took in high school. So, I mean, we need to look at that for our kids. What are they taking? And people who don't have that background of going to college, maybe some first gens or whatever, they don't know that you need to take rigor. And rigor means AP, honors, so that they're looking and they're not dying off their senior year. And that's what's most important. I think dual enrollment here is a filler for study hall. And that's how I perceive it, that the students are sitting in study hall and they're like, well, I guess I'll take a college credit. So and it may go back to what we offer here, may go back to scheduling, I don't know, but our kids need to get the rigor here and then go into those experiences of co-op and maybe a dual enrollment if they're at that point. But I think having those 9th, 10th, 11th graders sitting in 1, 2, or 3 college classes, to me, I'm like, oh my goodness, where are you trying to go to school? And then when I look with the guidance counselors at what they're taking, do they even know that that'll take? They're taking psych, social, and okay, that's a bad example, but they're taking things that are like multiple levels. They're taking public communications, but they're taking same content areas. So again, if they are first gen, they don't know that you need the variety. They don't know that you can't take all of them with you. If they try to go to an Ivy League or a prestigious college, they're looking for rigor. So again, all of that to go back to say, we need to look at how rigor looks in our high school. And as Henry mentioned on the one slide, we need to show like the old SCA diploma, like what it used to be. Like when I was in Shamokin, I knew this was the place to be. So that's the lens we need to start looking at when we're talking about high school and these kind of things.
So when you misspoke there, those are the courses that I would like to see them taking, is the psych, the soc, the comp, the things like that pretty well go anywhere, because psych and soc are courses that you're forced to take in a college that aren't necessarily part of your major. If you're going to be a sociologist or you're going into one of those majors, probably shouldn't necessarily take that, even though psych and soc 101 most likely will transfer almost anywhere. I don't know, MIT is a psych and social.
I have no idea.
But what I'm saying is, I know math probably wouldn't, but on the other hand, psych and social, pretty well, like, those are the courses that I would say that we should be offering to these kids, that if they want to in their 10th or 11th grade year, or even, I mean, even 9th grade year, if they wanted to fill a study hall because they they couldn't get placed because our scheduler didn't have them placed in a something, and they wanted to take that course, and they're at a level where they can take that college course. They're not riding the 68 GPA, and we say, oh yeah, go ahead because you got accepted. Those are all the things that have to be clicked before you can get into a course like that.
Given that we offer AP Calc, AP Physics, AP Chemistry, we still offer AP Chem, AP, what else? Bio, still offered. So given that we offer those, why would anyone need to take Calc at Bloom?
They shouldn't. That's
right. Why would they need to take physics at Bloom?
They shouldn't.
Okay, so is that the determination? We just don't allow that anymore?
You can allow it, but they have to be required, Josh, to take
Yeah.
these certain courses, these certain
They can
years
take
with
it in
us.
addition.
I'm saying in addition to what? Like you want to take,
What our requirements
Our
are
grad
here. We want them to complete all their grad requirements here. And if they have room in their schedule or they want to do, like, it's to complement our current studies here. That's how dual enrollment, we think dual enrollment should be utilized. That's how PD says it should be utilized, to complement what we have here, not to replace what we have here, to go coincide with.
so to be clear on the rigor part, our AP Physics course, substantially rigorous, yes?
Yes.
AP Chem, AP Calc, right? Our AP courses are rigorous, right? Like we offer rigorous instruction.
Yeah.
We have well-qualified teachers.
We just need kids to take it and be in-house.
When we're talking about increasing a level of rigor, we're talking about what we're encouraging or requiring kids to actually undertake, not the fact that we don't offer rigorous instruction. I just want to be clear. I just want to, like,
Well, I think, Josh, I think the big thing too is you have to change the mindset. And I don't mean just the mindset of the students, I mean the mindset of the parents.
Yeah.
Because, I've had this discussion, I'm sure you guys have, your kids are, about the same age as mine. A lot of the parents we talk to, well, my kid's gonna do dual enrollment because, that's what everybody else is doing, but it shouldn't be. That should be something that supplements what's offered here. So the mindset needs to be that the AP courses, the honors courses here are the expectation. And then if you want to go on, beyond what is available here, because we don't offer it, then that's the option for you. But I think it's gonna be a mindset shift because it's been for so long here that your senior year, you're not in the building because you're doing ACE, you're doing everything else.
When you hear conversations, people are talking, oh, my kid's gonna be able to graduate, by before their junior year and midway through their sophomore year. Like that's not right. Like they need to have those years. Those are like vital maturing component educational years to prep yourself for college. They shouldn't be in college when they're sophomores or juniors in high school.
the majority of people.
What?
And they can't drive a car.
Yeah, well, exactly. The majority
There are-
of people,
there
yes.
are
There are exceptions. Absolutely.
What-
Absolutely.
At what point in their entire time at Southern Columbia do we actively engage kids about discussion of career and whether or not they should be going to school and whether or not this level of school meets their needs or exceeds their needs, or they should look at going to this school because it might be a cheaper option and still meets what they want to do, or if they want to be this or do this, they should be looking at taking these more rigorous courses. Where do we engage?
I know that Mrs. Andrews and I speak to kids in the guidance rotation in 7th and 8th. I can't speak to Mr. GK. I know Smart Futures does talk about it though. I just did a lesson that included that. Again, I think there's a lot of what Steve is saying that's correct. Is it's also parent education. There is kind of like this like positive stigma of, oh, my kid's at the university. And I think we really need to educate parents that, for some of these kids, that's not necessarily the correct path depending on their career.
And I agree right there. You just said it. I think they need to be educated, but I think possibly educated in the ninth grade year, going into the 10th grade year when we start offering this, because I know there's gonna be parents that are going to say, okay, well, I take AP chemistry and AP chemistry comes back as, you get a 2 or a, I forget, is it 3 and it covers it or whatever?
College specific, but.
Or college.
Three is generally the bar, some are 4 or 5.
You get a 2 and it's a prerequisite for your major, but it's got something that it would be taken or something like that, where you could pass the course in college for a college course, but maybe you had a bad night before you took the AP exam. You have one exam that tells you whether or not you learned anything through the entire course.
Depending on the school, depending on the school, they would rather see a B in AP than an A in dual enrollment.
But then you're also taking their B in AP, well, you will also have to take their chemistry course at the school.
True, but when we also tell kids there's still real value, even if you get, let's say, a 2 on the chem or a 3 that's not taken, there's still real value in having had a year of that chem class or that AP physics with Mr. Major before you go and take it at the college level. I mean, I would think you are light years ahead of kids sitting around you.
I'm just saying that
I took all 3, AP Physics, AP Calc. I didn't take AP Chem. I didn't even test. I took them all my freshman year at Hopkins, and it was the best thing I did because I was so far above and beyond prepared when I was mixed in with 300 students. You're not getting the instruction time. And I passed with flying colors because I had 2 good high school teachers.
We also have AP English. We still have AP World History here.
Yes.
You're back in the conversation of kids need to know like what they're taking. I've had a conversation with a student that wants to go pre-med that took a LCC class with a bio with no lab, thinking it's going to transfer into, it's not, so now their parent just wasted $300 on that credit that really just falls into their gen ed, which honestly, if you want to talk about easy, take us ocean.
And we do talk to parents at the dual enrollment meeting about that, dual enrollment is good up to kind of that optimal area. They're not going to take 40 dual enrollment credits, and you're not going to graduate from college 2 years early just because you did so much dual enrollment. If you're going into a heavy science major, they're not going to take your Commonwealth Sciences in lieu of theirs. You're going to be in a cohort when you get to them, and they want you to have their specific science and math. We have those conversations with parents in the dual enrollment meetings.
So based on the crap show that is, saying you have to meet our minimum requirements here at Southern.
What are our minimum requirements?
Well, can we finish?
I have one more comment on this though before we move on. So the question of when do we have this conversation with the kids is because I've had multiple conversations with recent graduates over the last 2 or 3 years. Kids going to Penn State for engineering programs, kids going to Ivy League schools, kids going to military academies. And by and large, the response is, in my new challenging environment, the AP courses I took at Southern were awesome preparation for what I'm dealing with, which is great, right? However, I feel like I was able to get to where I am and get here in spite of what Southern offered me, not because of what Southern offered me. I figured this out on my own because no one knew how to help me. No one spoke to me. No one could answer my questions if I had any. I didn't even try to ask questions of the staff or the faculty because I knew they wouldn't know the answers that were relevant to me. So I feel like you can't just say we're going to increase the rigor and the requirement if you don't also increase the level of the staff, the faculty understanding of that and what we are presenting to our students as early as when they meet Mr. Kiefer, right? Like it's a middle school discussion to start that because all of our strong performers, we go to graduation each year, right? And you talk to our top performing graduates, right? What do they want to be? They want to be a teacher. Okay, that's great. Why do you want to be a teacher? Because That's what I've seen, and that's the people that I respect and I know because they haven't seen other things, right? It's great. We need good teachers. There's a shortage, like we need teachers, but what we are exposing the kids to directly impacts their choices for all of this. If you had kids who knew they wanted to be an aerospace engineer and then said, what does it take to get there? They would not choose to go take an LCC algebra course as their math or an LCC calc. They would say, I need calc AP, I need AP calc, and I wish we had BC, not just AB. And they would say, I wish we had an IB course, right? We don't even talk about IB courses here, right? If they understood what actually required to get where they wanted to be, the demand would come from within for this. We wouldn't have to force it on the kids.
I think Steve made a really valuable comment about changing parent mindset. And like what Josh said, you know, in my time on the board, when I stand there and I hand out diplomas every year and I look at the screen and try and figure out who is a Southern Columbia graduate, what is the goalpost that we're working towards and making these decisions for? To me, the rigor conversation is not just about the handful of kids who want to and are capable of going to Ivy League schools. It's also about the kids who have long-term goals with graduate school. And sometimes the very best way to achieve those goals is to go to the affordable but quality institution for your undergraduate, because it's really your graduate school that matters. But these are also like the most anxious generation of students to ever have their feet touch planet Earth. And if you're going to go into these courses at the university where you're just a registrar is cashing your check versus taking rigor here, there's somebody who's actually going to invest in you and have some accountability and say, hey, don't throw up because you just failed the first test of your life. Let me help you understand how one bad test doesn't ruin your life. Even two bad tests isn't going to wreck it. Here's some strategies so that this never happens to you again, or it only happens once or twice more. There's real value in that. And I think that some parents understand that and struggle with how to support their kids. And maybe that's part of helping it, but it's not just about the Ivy League kids or that handful of kids. To me, it's about, I look at these kids who have long-term plans that are clear of graduation, and what does every one of them want to be? A physical therapist, because they're an athlete who got hurt and physical therapist put them back together and they got to do what they wanted to do and have fun, and they're going to be a legit athlete now. It's going to pay for this education. So I want those kids taking a quality AP bio class here, so they're not crying and deciding they can't do this 18 months down the road at a rigorous higher level institution.
I even had teachers during my meetings ask me for final exams and midterms again, because they're saying the same things. Like, these kids don't understand that stress in this controlled environment, that when they go out, then they get that high stress of having to study for a major exam.
And we've spoken about that too. I said, you know, in my time here, AP Bio has run maybe a handful of times, which I think is terrible. You know, we have all these kids that go to Geisinger for co-op. Those kids should all be in our AP Bio. They should be in our honors anatomy. And I've actually had some parents say, well, you know, that would be too hard for them. Then maybe that career choice is not, you know, right. Maybe your kiddo needs to look at something different in the medical field. So I agree. Like, we should really, that anatomy and physiology should be high. The AP Bio, we should be able to run every single year.
Yeah, can I move on, Mr. Nadrowski?
You could try. It really doesn't matter what you have on the screen. We're going to talk about whatever.
We have a couple recommendations here on how we're gonna increase the requirements, and also about a rotating AB school year schedule as a resolution to some of this. So, Mr. Major, we'd like to talk about the need for going for 3 to 4 science credits as a graduation requirement.
Yeah, so I think, you know, the big discussion here tonight, obviously there's support from the board to make some significant changes. And I think the key is we want to increase rigor, we want to increase relevance for the students. And Bree, like you just said, relevance for every kid is going to be different. Not every kid needs to take those AP bios, AP physics, AP chems, but some of those kids need to take the courses that the board has invested a lot of time and money into implementing, like the ag science program, for example. So what we'd like to see happen is the number of graduation requirements go up by at least one from 22 to 23. as a result of increasing the science credits from 3 to 4. That way, every student in 9th grade will take, it's going to be called conceptual physics now, so every kid has a background in basic physics. 10th grade will be biology, 11th grade will be chemistry. And then sometime junior, senior year, they take one of their elective science courses, either in one of the APs in the sciences, the anatomy, physiology, or in some of the ag science program, because there's a lot of value in those classes and there's a lot of resources been devoted to that. This would bring us closer alignment with a lot of the other area schools, keep us a little bit more consistent. And again, I think somebody said, Josh might have been, we have to be the adults in the room in some cases. And if the parents, was mentioned, parents think AP Bio is too challenging for the kids and they still think their kid's going to be a doctor or a physical therapist, then maybe that discussion, needs to be had by us rather than the parents. Like, you need to take AP Bio and struggle through it. So to make that all happen, what we'd also like to do is similar to what a lot of colleges do, is go to like an AB school year, to offer every course, but not every year. The reason for that is right now, the way schedules work, we have, even if every kid got everything they wanted, we might only have 8 kids want physics, 7 kids want AP physics. We don't have time in the schedule to run both because I have all the 9th grade classes. And so we pick one or the other, we run it, and we shove the kids in another class. If we did an A-B cycle, A year, kids would know physics would be offered, B year, AP physics would be offered. No question about it. If you want to take AP physics, you're going to wait till this year. If you want to take regular physics, you take it, on the A year. That's going to help students have dependability in scheduling. They know the course is going to be offered. It's going to let them plan things out. Also going to improve class size. I know one of the concerns of the board has been, and justifiably so, make use of the resources we have. And honestly, like my AP physics class this year is 9 students. That's not an ideal class size. It should be a little bigger. 9 kids seems like a great number of students, but when you have kids out for field trips and other experiences, college visits, and you get down to like 6 kids a day, some days, that's tough. And a little bit more would be better. And it just really would help, especially with the students, help them guarantee, hey, these courses are going to be run maybe on an every other year cycle.
Would it matter AP Physics, AP Calc, order in which they take?
Yeah, and that would be something we have to. Yeah, I mean, the AP Physics here is algebra based, so it's not calc based.
Not really,
but you would probably have the same kids taking both, so you'd probably want to offer them maybe in alternate years. I think that helps. I think it's going to help Henry with scheduling. I think it will help. Again, give some measure of dependability to the students. These courses are going to be offered. And especially with AP Bio, we haven't run AP Bio in years. We should be, and that should be run, maybe not every year, but every other year, piggybacking with the anatomy class. We have a lot of kids going to the medical field. They should be taking those classes. So,
question. So I don't see a limit past the number of study halls they can schedule per year.
What's the limit?
Well, we don't have one.
Yeah, it's one period.
One.
Is that been enforced?
Yes.
I thought that we had a bunch of kids I thought I was hearing earlier this year that we had kids with multiple study halls screwing around.
The only kids that would have a quote multiple study hall is if they had a placeholder, if they were signed up for a college class and they were using that study hall, they were counting that college class to be full-time, so they were using that study hall to do the college class. So technically they were enrolled in class at that time.
Okay. I thought that was one of the reasons, because I had said before to Jill, I said, why increase the credit requirement? Just limit the number of study halls. If they want to graduate as a junior, I'm totally fine with that. Very few will choose that path, but I also don't want them sitting here for 6 periods twiddling their thumbs. No, if you're going to stay here, you're going to learn. You're going to do it well. So that's why I asked that question.
I will say those seniors can have 2. Stand corrected. Seniors have to have 6 periods of classes, 6 credits. And since we have 8, that does leave seniors with the availability to have 2.
Thanks, please. Okay, so here's our current requirements. Okay. On the bottom, I think somebody asked the question, are there any things that cause scheduling issues? Office apps and personal finance is a graduation requirements. Office applications is taught by Mrs. Becker, and Personal finance is taught by Mr. Gangler. So we do have to satisfy those, which greatly limits our opportunities for business education. Not that our numbers are high in other classes offered by the business education department at this time. But those are some of the constraints we have there. And then this teacher, Mr. Gangler, is also a certified aviation teacher. These are only certified aviation teacher. So we can't really add any other classes to his workload, such as robotics and programming and things of that sort, due to those requirements. You can see what's highlighted in blue. Those are the those are the changes that we are proposing. As you can see, it's not much. It's just, like you can see, just taking dual enrollment out and making all of your requirements in-house. And the science credit makes it from 3 to 4 credits, takes from 22 credits overall to 23. And those are the concerns that we already addressed that this will hopefully help to alleviate and satisfy.
Personal finance is a graduation requirement?
It is, yes.
How could the demand not be high?
Well, no, the demand is high. I'm talking about other classes that he would teach in the business realm.
Oh,
yeah.
There's only 4 periods with finance.
Yeah, so he'll have.
Demand is not currently high for the other business opportunities.
Yes.
Understood.
Yes.
All right.
So we'll have 4 or 5 periods of personal finance, and then the other 3 for him are specifically dedicated to aviation. He can't teach any other business courses. Mrs. Becker teaches 5 office apps classes, and I think 2 accounting classes. So that's all. Like, there were other kids that signed up for other classes. We weren't able to accommodate it. And it was minimal. Okay.
It was required by Southern or by the state?
Personal finance is a requirement by the state.
And office apps?
Office apps is not a requirement by the state. That's a Southern requirement.
Do we think it should be?
We had this discussion the other day. I think that's very applicable. I use a lot of those tools in my current profession. I think it's applicable to a lot of professions. I think it's something that can also be learned on your own time with practice. And I mean, we do have a lot of availability online to learn how to do these things too, in training courses.
Are those the sorts of things that could be pushed down into the middle school computers?
How would that affect requirements, Crystal? As long as they meet it, will it be good? Will that satisfy their?
Yeah,
Oh.
because we teach computers.
Yeah, we do.
No, I mean, can you take the content from Office applications and teach that in the middle school computers in the fine arts?
Yeah.
So kids get it.
We're talking about
I don't know
refreshing
what
it
we
anyway.
teach here, so that's a question, like, that's a conversation for you guys to have to know what that means, but.
I mean, it will definitely open up other opportunities for business, but remember, there was a teacher that didn't have our first year here that I think taught 22 kids throughout the whole school day. And that's how we supplemented that by giving that teacher personal finance,
And look, I use Office every single day. I think people probably generally know how to use it. I'm not just asking for your feedback, is it an encouragement or a requirement?
I think we offer it. I don't know if it needs to be a requirement, but I think it should definitely be an offering for sure. I don't think we remove it completely, but.
Mathematics.
I think it needs to be taught somewhere.
What maths am I taking besides Algebra 1 to graduate high school?
So under the current structure, it says 3 additional maths. So, you got geometry, algebra 2, stat, calc, trig, we have a ton of offerings. The problem is if they're taking them with with the dual enrollment component, that's what we're not in.
So I can't get out of here without using like geometry to satisfy this requirement, or could I take 3 general maths and graduate?
You could take Algebra 1 and Foundations of Algebra, which if you take Algebra 1 in the high school, you have to take Foundations. They piggyback, but they're 2 separate credits. So you could have those 2. You could have Algebra 2, and then for your 4th credit, you could do accounting. You could do statistics. So technically, you do not ever
So we
need
could
geometry.
get geometry and algebra 2,
Well, you would need the Algebra 2.
but could you take Prop stats, foundations of algebra 1 and something else still?
You have to have 3, what we would call like progressional maths before the accounting 1 will count as one of the maths.
Okay.
So, because you take algebra 1, you can't take stats unless you've had algebra 2. That is a prerequisite. So technically you'd have to have that algebra 2, algebra 1 foundations before the statistics.
Okay. Is that, just as I looked at it, my next question was gonna be, why shouldn't we put geometry and algebra 2 on there? As you're gonna take these 3 and then you can pick your 4th.
You can.
Depends on the kid.
Question is, can we get kids through these classes? Because we have to run a remediation for algebra 1 every year, and the kids refailed Keystones.
I think the kids that want it have that opportunity to do it, Josh, but I also think there's kids that aren't math kids that you need to have the other.
What about kids that aren't English kids?
Yeah, this,
Like, we talked about.
we're not talking about making them
degree,
take
and now
calc.
you just told them
We're
dividing
not-
the degree.
We're not talking about forcing calc or, differential equations here. It's not I mean, algebra 2. I don't know how you should be allowed to graduate high school and not know how to do algebra 2. Like,
That's
I
right.
don't know.
We're gonna say, hey, you gotta take these certain sciences, you gotta take 4 years of English, which is increasing rigorous
and geometry, like,
Trigonometry, algebra 2, and then another
I think
elective.
you need geometry.
I don't know. Do you know how to measure angles?
I hate to, I don't know.
How many sides is it?
I'd rather have a protractor. I don't need to know what my isosceles is. I'll use a protractor. I hated geometry.
I don't know. So if you were asking me, everybody would take
I know.
calc to get out of here, but
So-
there's a reasonable level of in between. But is it algebra 1 is the end of rigor for math?
That's insane.
Oh,
That's what it sounds like.
It's the graduation
Well-
requirement by the state, if you think about it, the Keystone, right? You have to pass the Keystone Algebra 1.
What does everybody else in the area do that makes all the lists of good schools?
Right, but we also test.
What do they require? Why don't we copy them is my question. What does Central require what does Central require? What does Danville require? The schools that end up on the state lists of great schools in the state and get lauded year after year.
If I remember.
Why don't we
correctly,
copy that?
From the research that I did when we were looking at graduation requirements, they require 4 maths. So like,
Yes.
no matter which way you slice it, you get pretty high if you're not a math.
Why
kid.
don't we require 4 maths?
Well, and we were talking about this as well, because our kids, now that they can get the credit in middle school.
You want a progression.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
you're fine.
You want-
But we were talking about this because like if a kid takes algebra 1 in 7th grade, they take algebra 2 in 8th grade, they could take geometry in 9th grade, then they are finished. They don't need any more math.
How many,
According to our standards.
how many kids think that would take algebra 1 7th grade stop though? Or like, if you accelerate,
You
are
have
you?
some that stop, believe it or not, like the
But I
same
think we gotta
amount,
take
like
4.
if we, what was it, Jenna, like if they will rise?
Yeah, and we're,
They will-
and they're not.
Do we have to take 4 or 3?
4.
It's 4.
Okay, so algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry, and then what?
You're saying don't let accounting count as math.
Counting is that.
You can
No,
do statistics.
So if I'm counting
That's
it for
I don't care.
I'm saying you should take algebra 1, geometry, and algebra 2, and then whatever the heck you want for our 4th math to graduate. And I don't care when you take it. If you can pass algebra 2 as a kindergartner,
I agree.
good luck, and we're
I
gonna get
agree.
you to MIT.
What was that word, Jeff,
Maybe
you
good
mentioned?
school.
It
Foundations
goes
of
back
algebra.
to the conversation
That's it.
that I had, that when they look at your high school transcript and you're not continuing to take classes and you're kind of bottoming out in 10th grade, that will go against anybody that's going to.
That's the conversation and the counseling part of,
That
you
will
know, what
stop
do you
though,
want to do?
just by creating criteria. That will stop that
For high school math.
for high school. It will-
I
it will stop
guarantee
it.
you, if you take all of these courses early, and the only thing you take in your entire high school career is AP Calc, and you get a nice score in AP Calc, and you get a 4 or 5 on the AP Calc, they're not gonna care that you didn't have a progressive anything in your high school record of math. Like, all they're gonna look at is, well, there's AP Calc.
So Jill,
Did okay.
your point, like, if you can handle it through prerequisites.
Right.
make sure, like, but then it's the same as if that's the case, then just write it down and give me that nice one fuzzy
Yeah.
feeling then.
Sure, we can make you have that nice warm fuzzy feeling. We'll write it down, Josh.
Appreciate that.
No problem. Got it.
But we've
Simple.
fallen very victim to this whole concept of like the bare minimum, right?
Agreed.
It's like, instead of filling a schedule and maybe doubling up on a math, because I'm math motivated and I'm gonna take an extra math course, it's once I hit the required amount, I'm done. And that isn't what education is. That isn't what our students' time should be here at Southern Columbia. I know as when I went through Lord's Regional, I had, I've filled schedule every year. There wasn't a conversation of those other things of college. It was, I had geometry, I had trig analytic geometry. I mean, I was filled with things that I took. It wasn't like, oh, I hit my 3, I'm done now, or I hit my 4. You fill a schedule up,
If we move towards the algebra 2 and geometry, is there a graduating class you would like to start that with? It might cause scheduling issues to just say like next year.
All of this, you have to do that way.
That's
You
what I mean,
can't
like,
just all this, yeah.
Is there like a year that would be good?
I don't know that exact answer. It depends on what all changes, but I will say, whatever we're gonna do, we do all at once right now. So this isn't what?
Right now, being whenever the now is.
Yeah, whenever we're gonna change, we change all of it, right? It's not we're gonna add this and we're gonna add this little, like, the standards change, the expectations change, and they're gonna be that way for probably 2 decades.
But I think what Jen is asking is, Josh.
I understand what she's asking. I'm saying whatever, yes, you're gonna have to roll it back, but you can't answer that question until you know what all you're changing.
Correct.
So you have to know what all is changing, and then you back it up to whatever class, whatever graduating class that works with. If it's all the way back to kindergarten, because now we're actually gonna require rigor all the way through, then that's when you change it. But and I think it should happen now. Like, when I say now, I mean for next school year, right? But does this go far enough? So if you came into this meeting this evening thinking that the board didn't support radical change and rigor or holding people accountable, now that it's been made clear, and if I mean, I don't want to have to reanimate it, but like, now that it is clear, thank you for removing the Mountain Dew, right?
That's right.
If that's not enough, like, we need to substantially move the bar here, not just little piecemeal stuff.
We had talked about that, and we feel that is enough, but again, though, not enough. It's a good start, but again, though, if we're talking about removing office apps, then we're gonna be down a credit then too.
I'm not saying remove office apps. I'm saying offer it, like she was saying, offer it early. I think it should.
My elementary school kids use Office apps regularly for their homework, so why are we giving kids high school credit for it?
Yeah, I think we need to replace it with something else
without knowing
to keep the credit requirement. I think we gotta be below 22. 22 is the lowest of any district. There's in our IU, there's 1 or 2 other school districts that require 22 credits, but it is by far the lowest. 23 to 25 was our recommendation.
What they're saying is just that it would just be, you have to take a business class, then that would offer opportunity to run another business course. The credit's staying. We're not getting rid of the credit.
Right.
We're saying business apps is an option, but that would allow the business teacher, where we said we couldn't have.
There's 1 business course.
Correct, you have to take a business course, which I
Okay.
think we're in agreement, but we want it to be a rigorous course. And we're saying, could we put the apps down in the middle school in computers there?
Yeah, and require any business course.
Got it.
Okay.
We do have an advanced applications course so that kids could, if they were interested in those 4 areas, they could take advanced applications.
Now, if anybody doesn't think this is enough and we need to require more, now's your time to speak.
I don't think it's enough, and we need to require more.
Okay.
More credits or?
What
We need to be
particular
more
area?
specific with what we are requiring. I think the progression that Mr. Hoagland suggested for math is the bare minimum.
So I think what we need to do, Josh, is
That's
we need to go back and we need to create a rigorous schedule, or I'm sorry, a rigorous requirement that will meet the needs of our Southern students based upon the feedback that we got here tonight. Come to the February board meeting with, these are the requirements that we would like to move forward with. I don't think, without sitting here with a math person to represent the high school math department, that we should make decisions without that conversation. And I'm not saying that we might come to the conclusion of, you're correct, Josh Hoagland, when you said that most school districts you have to take algebra 1, you have to take algebra 2, you have to take geometry. There are 3 required things. After that, your 4th one, we don't care what you take, but you have to do these things. We can come back to you with a set requirement of, this is what we believe from our leadership team at the high school, that this we can handle, without coming to the board and saying, we got to hire all these people to make this happen. But also making something rigorous for our kids, and something that's for all kids, not just, I've heard a lot of you say, like Bree, you mentioned, we don't necessarily, we want to make sure we're meeting the needs of everyone. So regardless if you're a kid that's going to MIT, or you're a kid that's going to Luzerne Community, you get a 2-year degree, and then you're going to go to Bloom, and then you're going to go to get a master's, making sure that we have a minimal requirement, but also making sure, the biggest thing I think that will be the game changer here is telling our kids, you have to stay here with us to get these certain things.
Yeah.
And after that, if you want to go to dual enrollment, by all means, go ahead and do it. But we're not monitoring it. We're not walking through it. We're not babysitting you through it. Go do it on your own. We'll help you set that up. We're not saying we're going to stop the meetings in general, but that shouldn't be where then they're coming back to Jenna and Megan and going, hey, I dropped this course, now get me into an English class. So we get rid of all those problems by just saying, you have to do it through us. That's going to alleviate so many stressors for the teachers, for the guidance staff, and having everything done with in-house.
And add on to that, I'm happy to see a proposal for restricting who can go to ACE then. But it's something like, hey, you gotta be a senior with an A average, and you can go there for extra electives, but not gonna let you tank yourself as you're trying to graduate here.
I think it's appropriate for juniors and seniors based upon criteria though. So I think there are some juniors, Josh, that are prepared for that. I would say 9th and 10th grade, absolutely not. That's my professional opinion of it.
That's right. I'm just saying, make sure that's included.
Okay.
Just on the credits, look, I'm not real big on artificially increasing credits if we make sure they have to take valuable classes. I'd be happy to specify more specific electives that we think are really valuable. Other people may say, hey, let's just jack up the credits. I've just been on team, hey, if you have an accelerated student who wants to graduate as a junior, let them. They can't do that with the credits, but they can when you say, hey, if you're coming back your senior year, valuable courses, even though you've met the credit threshold.
Sure.
I think it achieves the same objective, just my opinion.
The only thing I'd add to that is, like Mr. Kiefer said, unfortunately, at least in my experience, kids like to meet the minimum. And so it's almost like we have to put these guardrails in place and say, I understand what you're saying. We don't say number of credits, but as long as you meet your electives, if you're done by junior year, great. But if going to ACE their senior year, just because they met the requirements, isn't the best thing for them, then we really should be the ones saying, you shouldn't go to ACE.
Sure.
If you're going to be an engineer and you're going to ACE and you're taking, classes that are not going to benefit you in the least, then I think there should be a way for the school to say, did you take your AP Chem, your AP Physics, your AP Calcs? And if the answer is no, then I think we should have the right to say, then we don't think ACE is the place for you.
And I'm fine.
ACE is the place. I think we have to be able to say that. Josh, you want to be an engineer, right? So that's what you try to do. You think that, right? But if try to do it. If you say, you know what, I want to be an engineer, but I'm going to ACE. Well, Josh, did you take AP Calc? No. Did you take AP Physics? No. Well, then we're not signing off on ACE because you haven't taken what.
That goes beyond just a credit requirement, right? Because even if we specify the 25 credits they take, taking language in algebra 1 in 8th grade, they're going to get there. We're going to have the same problem. So that's good. I'm happy to see that rolled in. What the recommendations are.
Yeah.
What gives you the teeth to be able to do that and bring it back to us? I think we're on board with that. Like, I don't want to see 5 meaningless electives to fill a schedule your senior year so you can hang out with your friends around here. That's just.
I don't think you can eliminate, I guess I don't know that there's a way that you can say, okay, you can't take this ACE course, but what we can do is say, this doesn't count for this in our criteria.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when we did this research and when Crystal put it all up and we looked at, as Josh and Stephanie said, all those great schools, right? We did that. And there's no one unless I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, that there's no one that says in the Lewisburg Centrals and Danvilles that you can't take the course. You can take it. It's just, we're not accepting it. Our courses are what we accept for these criteria. So I think you can control what you can control, which is what we're going to accept. So after that, I don't necessarily know that you can control someone going out and doing that.
But
during the school day, we can. What you're doing during our day, you can, right? Like.
Sure, but I
you wanna
think you
take it-
also wouldn't, if we have a minimal requirement, right?
Yeah.
That we all agree is, I don't know what the proper word is. I don't want to say it's minimal, but acceptable. Thank you. An acceptable requirement that we all feel is, I think you're gonna avoid that problem.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, Jenna and I talked about that as well. We're like, if a kid wants to go and take an English, you take your high school English here, you have a study hall, go ahead and take an LCC English. We'll even put it on your transcript, but it's not gonna go in place of our English.
Right.
So like, again, not limiting their opportunity, allowing them, but it just it's not their graduation requirement, but we will put it on there.
What if they tell you they want to be an aerospace engineer and they're going to skip AP physics here to take intro to physics?
fair. At Bloom?
Right? They already met their science requirement here, so they could. I think that's what Steve's getting to, is do we have some mechanism to say, look, you're making a huge mistake and let me steer you straight. You're taking it here instead.
Sure, I think you can have that conversation, but if they ultimately say to you, well, no, I don't listen to you and I want to do it this way.
Who has that conversation with the student and the parent?
Guidance does.
Do those conversations happen now or not because of if they want to take it, they just take it?
No, I mean, we certainly talk to students about that. Ultimately, we do get parents who kind of just acquiesce to their kids and say, well, this is what they want to do, so I'm letting them do it.
Would it be beneficial to have them talk to someone who actually has gone that path? Should we be actively building out a network of people to bring in these conversations if that's the only safeguard we have, rather than like if Mrs. Sue Robinson had sat across from me as a guidance counselor and said, no, you can't take this because you want to be, I said, yeah, whatever. And I'd have done what I wanted to, right? Like, and I feel that's probably the same situation because you haven't walked that path. And like, you know, it's different coming from someone who has actually done it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of alums, a lot of people who live in the district who have gone out, and pretty much any career field you want to look at, they exist here. And most of them will be very willing, I think, to be involved in mentoring or. Yeah.
So we had talked about doing that, bringing the alumni in for like an alumni day where we have the kids visit with different career exploration opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one that, like, I think that would be great. And there was some of that kind of stuff that occurred pre-COVID, career day kind of stuff. But I mean, specifically to this point of course select, like that kind of conversation doesn't occur in those settings, right? This is a, hey, we know you're making the wrong choices here, but I don't have a way to convey it to you that you actually are listening, right? That is what I'm talking about, is essentially escalating it then to someone.
Yeah, like almost having an alumni mentor. So you could say, listen, I know that this is what you want to do. How about you talk to person X?
And I will tell you that I think a lot of our kids who go on into challenging academic fields find them on their own, right? They do what they can to find those alums or those people who live in the district to have these types of conversations. I mean, I have a lot of breakfasts and I know that these kids talk to other people. So I think we should actively cultivate that type of thing. And that may be the best approach if we're not going to say, you can't take this. We're just going to say, you really shouldn't. And here, talk to someone who will speak quite bluntly to you about it. I mean, it requires more effort. It requires more work. I don't know who would manage such a thing. A lot of questions there, but if guidance is the area where this conversation is supposed to be having, that would be a resource for the guidance office to use. And I come back to, if we get the scheduling piece off their plate, then we open up like 2 months worth of time, right? I spend a lot of time trying to figure out the schedule every year. A lot of the summer, right?
And that kind of goes to what Henry was saying. Side note, but also, similar, is that we're looking to do a spring career fair. We'd like to bring back job shadowing for students, things where they can actually get out and get side by side with people in these careers to see what they do besides, what a teacher does, what a doctor does, what your parents do. try to get them out
Right.
into that world more.
We're just trying to coordinate it with we're trying to coordinate with like an awards, not an awards day, but if we show growth in our keystones for English, we want to reward the students, and like we wanted to incorporate that as a day to reward the students. The fact is we don't have the results back yet. We show growth in algebra, we show growth in bio. We're waiting on English to be able to do this. We're going to try and time it up with that day to do so. We just need the results so we can get the ball rolling, you know. So any other questions for this slide? We're almost through, guys. More. What's that? Well, we're getting a lot of students that want to come back, and we have a process in place that they're supposed to follow to come back, and I think that things are just not great up there, and I don't think I think students are experiencing some issues, and I think they want to come back. And
I think the other piece with that, Henry, too, was just the discussion in general about if VOTEC kids go back to their home district for their academics, which again, you know, maybe a couple years down the road, but that would lead us to need more staffing if we bring back our VOTEC kids. So like just long term.
So you're saying dual enrollment will be offered as a senior?
no, we think it's acceptable as a junior. We're talking freshmen and sophomores. They're definitely not ready for it. It all depends on the student and their achievement levels, of course. So yeah, we're almost done. Okay, so forward thinking for high school staffing. Current figures suggest that we do not need any new teachers. It'll make things tight with, you know, bringing all the kids and increasing these requirements, but we can accommodate, there's your word, with creativity. We'll be able to figure something out though. Less creatively, more structured. Staffing should not be an issue for the high school until the current 5th grade class enters high school. You can see 4th and 5th grade are some big numbers. At that point, we may need to explore English and science staff at that point, but we're not there yet.
And on average, if we continue with the VOTEC that we have now,
we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Lose 10, 12 kids.
I think we get 22 seats.
Yeah.
So I would say on average, probably 18, 22 will go, and then 4. So we'll decide in summer. I don't really want to go.
So at least 15 to
Yeah.
18 we end up with. So that 114 will be sub 100.
About a third.
It should.
Okay.
Sure, but you just never really know.
I understand. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but generally that. Okay, so that's where we're at for staffing, not a consideration until a few more years. Okay, so just to recap, option 1, stay status quo. Option 2, all graduation requirements completed in-house. Dual enrollment remains viable for enrichment, acceleration, and specialized coursework. Increase science credit from 3 to 4, making it 23 total. And we implement an A/B rotating course offering to hit the full spectrum of what we offer here at Southern Columbia. Those are the 2 options we're gonna leave moving forward. And
everybody that wants to leave option 1 is an option up there.
I don't think so.
Write that down.
You also have to give 2 options. That's option 1, and there's option 2.
This is what you do with this school board. You give 2 options, but what do? We focus you to basically 1.
Increase science,
right?
Increasing math.
Josh, did you like that?
We went to option 3. We're gonna make it more stringent.
Did I optimize my outcome?
So
you restricted the set of feasible. Anyway.
my question is, so if we don't want to limit kids, correct?
Correct.
That's our main thing. We don't want to limit kids. Josh wants everybody to go to MIT, but it's not.
I don't want anybody to go to MIT. I don't recommend anybody goes to MIT. Just
kids that are, say, high performers and
unnecessary.
You know, have the opportunity that if they did the ACE program or dual enrollment, had an opportunity they take courses for each semester, courses in between, and they have the opportunity to graduate as an associate's degree their senior year. You're saying they can't do that then from now on?
I don't,
No, but they have to take our requirement. So right now what's happening is instead of kids taking our senior English, they're taking a lit or a comp at the university and not taking ours. What we would like to see is you take our senior English. And if in addition you want to take a lit, you certainly can, but you're fulfilling graduation requirements here under our roof.
So I don't like that.
You're saying you would like a waiver, like.
I don't like that. I like the fact of that, but on the other hand, I think if I still like the idea that if you're a excelled student and have the ability to come out of here with an associate's degree and you want to use that associate's degree, you don't want to go to MIT.
I'm talking about MIT.
Well, that's all you, but, all right, Harvest. A little better than MIT, but anyhow, with that, that's my only thing. I think you're gonna get a lot of pushback because if a kid can come out of here with no college debt and have an associate's degree versus having to take high school English their senior year and not be able to take because it doesn't fit they can't get into it because high school English you have to take here and they can't get any of the other courses at Bloomsburg. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that there needs to be requirements before you can go into dual enrollment or before you can go into anything like this. I think you need to be able to show that you're a 95% or distinguished honor roll student and that you're able to do this thing. But on the other hand, I hate limiting to that way. There's no possible way. I know students that came out of here with, I think she had like 63 or 65 credits. Like, so she went to school and they all transferred for what she was going for. She went to school and got her bachelor's degree in a year and a half.
Right.
You know, I don't agree necessarily with forcing someone to go to college and end up paying those fees because college now is not cheap.
right.
If they show that they can do that and do well in the classes, I think we need to have a monitoring system in place. If they get B pluses or whatever the bare minimum is in these classes, well, then at that point in time, no, you need to come back. You can't do it. But I think if you have a student that is excelling and wants to do that and wants to go on for an associate's degree that they're going to use, we're going to say, no, you can't do that. We're going to have to go to high school and then go on to college and pay full price for college.
And again, though, that's what we're weighing here.
I know. Well, and I'm just saying that's like you're then taking a student that is a high performer.
Sure.
And telling them that, no, you have to stay in high school. You can't do that.
Right. And again, it goes back to the AP argument versus this. What would you rather? What would you rather, an intro course scratching the surface, or would you rather take an AP course that gets down to the nuts and bolts of everything, you know? But I mean, think about this though, too. I mean, even if the kid takes, and you know, they can get their math, some of their requirements such as algebra out of the way in middle school. So even if you do, you know, if a kid doesn't take a study hall, you know, think about this, 8, 16, 24, 32, they could earn 32 credits while at Southern Columbia with only 22 required. It's just challenging them more to take on a little more if they're able, if they're high achieving, so they can, in all reality, they can get 10 college courses in, you know, by that.
In other words, the dual enrollment really isn't, dual enrollment would be out. It would be offering, you can go for a course.
Dual enrollment is not being removed.
But
it's supplement.
Technically it is, because it's not really dual enrollment anymore.
They could take college courses. They could take college courses.
You're allowed to take college courses outside of the regular day at Southern
But
Columbia.
it's dual enrollment because you're duly enrolled in high school and college.
So if your senior year, you have 5 open periods, you've already met our graduation requirements,
Correct.
you still be able to fill all 5 of those off campus and do that.
So your senior year, you can do that, basically.
And your junior year, you can fill that.
And now colleges are offering a winter term. So again, if you do like a course online, you can do a winter term and a winter course and condensed. I think it's a 5 week period. So we have some kiddos right now taking some winter classes.
If you grind, you could still meet our graduation requirements very early and you could,
Very early.
yes, and you can still take those college courses.
So what if you,
not 24,
Right.
Yes.
what if, see what the board actually does here, we say one's terrible, two's okay, but we make up option 3.
And that's fine. We could do that.
That's what always happens.
Yeah. That's why we're doing this. We all gotta get on the same page,
I
you
like
know?
option 2, maybe you consider if a student comes up with
It's valid thought.
99% student of, I want to take these 20 courses and they're going to fulfill this degree. Consider giving yourself some wiggle room where you can do that without it starting to choose, well, I like this person or that person.
I mean, there's gonna be certain people that have no idea what they wanna do even after they graduate. I mean, there's definitely that. But then there's also people that in 10th grade know that they wanna do this. And then they can take college course, like right now, they can take those college courses and basically almost get to that by the end of their senior year. And at 18, come out with an associate's degree and potentially have, be done. If that's what the level of college that they want to get to.
I think, Drew, they still have the ability to do that. I think what the kids that what we're seeing happen is we're having kids that are trying to take college courses to leave our campus because they think that it's either easier or they can go out and say I'm in a college. The kids you're specifically speaking of, I think will have that opportunity to do that because they're going to be the kids that potentially are taking these credits in the middle school to set them up so that the time they're at the high school, they do have all these freedom periods that we can then say through the guidance department, you can go now to the college to take this, this, and this because you have this availability. I think what we're seeing is the kids who are a 9th or 10th grader, they're saying, hey, I could go take a college course. I'm going to go do that instead of doing this. We can do something where it's a 9, 10, and 11, you can't leave campus, but 12 you can, and we can make it like you can do that too. Like there's certain schools that say you can just go, when I say schools, I'm talking like, I don't have them specifically in front of me, but different high schools say you can only leave campus at this year. So we can look at it that too, if that's what you're asking. And I think that's what you're saying.
I guess I'm just saying that if but you still have to restrict the student to, okay, you have to come back here for English and wherever the paper is, that was the requirements, English. So you'd have to be back here for English or AP. And you'd have to be back here for a science. And you have to, the different requirements that you'd have to take if by happen chance you don't fulfill them in middle school, you have to come here for those. So then at that point in time, you're restricted in when you can take those college courses.
Correct.
So then at that point in time, you have to try and arrange
senior year
the schedule here with that schedule. So then at that point in time, you really can't do dual enrollment either because we're not going to rearrange our schedule here for that student.
I agree. I just think that at some point you have to have a cutoff. Like you're not going to meet every single situation.
I think honestly for me, the biggest thing is requirements for it. I think that's my biggest thing with it is that you don't just allow anyone and their brother to go in and take dual enrollment. Somebody that has a 65 average, I want to take intro to comp, at BU because I want to take that.
Crystal, didn't you create something before about like parameters and stuff? That you have something on file for
We
dual?
looked at the other schools. Yeah, we shared with what the other schools require you to do.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think rigorous requirements to be able to get in or to be able to take those courses, I think is so that way you only have the people who are overachievers that are taking it. That have the ability to take that, because otherwise you can't take it.
There's no rigor.
It's not just open to anybody and everybody. It's to people that have met the
Yeah, the problem with that though is if you look at our kids' grades, everybody got an A or high GPA, right? Like it's not A, right? Like due to all of the things discussed this evening about lack of rigor in what is required, not lack of rigor in the way courses are presented or taught, because many of our classes are taught with great rigor and fidelity, but because of the set of requirements that we have, it is fairly easy to maintain a fairly good GPA and not be capable of performing well in the dual enrolled situation.
There's high performing
fair?
schools because there's standards. We don't have to recreate this. It's out there. We just literally have to put it into place. We just copy it. Like it's not hard. Like literally it's simple. We just do it. Exactly. So we will come on February with this is exactly what we're going to do. This is the spell out of it. And this is why we're doing it. And it's going to hold our kids accountable. It's going to hold our families accountable.
All right, moving on.
So, I just wanted to talk.
I'm done.
Sorry, there's three more.
How many?
Just three.
Just three.
But you can read them
And
on
it's
your
only- and I
leisure.
talk fast. So I'm not gonna read these, but I just wanted to include these in your document that you got sent to you, because I did tell and promise my teachers that I would allow them to have their voice heard here in this meeting if this meeting ever came to be. So I did a survey in November and I asked them things. So what I did was took
The lead teachers.
this is the, yeah, thank you. It went only to middle school and high school lead teachers. I asked specific things about scheduling, time, structure, class size, class rigor, things like that. So anyway, these next two slides are just their responses. I really wanted their voice. I tried asking a lot to come, but I just want their voice to be heard of what they are seeing, because again, we see it from the outside. They're the ones on the inside. So they know what's happening in their classrooms. And I think it's important just that their voices are put out here so that you have them. So again, you have them in your slides. Last slide, I promise. So as we finish up, some future considerations that I can see are problematic is that we are not addressing arts and space science in high school. It is a standard from the Pennsylvania Department of Education that we are not covering. We are also doing environmental science, which it's coming back. You're working on a course now, mixing with ag, and so we need to make sure that that's fully addressed.
We do those in middle school.
So Earth and Space is
Space.
fully taught, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, and that was-
banded 9 to
High school level course right there.
That was the discussion we had, is if it's being taught to such depth in eighth grade, we really do it again in high school, and the answer came to us, not right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
See how it goes.
I like
Now,
it.
those standards aren't banded 9 to 12, but we do push them in eighth grade. As we look at the Future Ready Index, if you haven't looked at it for high school, we are about a 60-45 percentage. So 60 college bound, 40 workforce, and 5 military. So we need to just keep the CTE programming, like the future of it. Are we going to expand? We know a lot of our students are medical. So if we would go the next round, we would think of something like an allied health. But again, that's just something to consider. We are getting subsidies for these students. So it could be potential profit, again, if we get students from other districts. FCS standards are not being taught at elementary or middle school, and they are coming from PDE. So we need to make sure that we're trying to address these in the future. And then just the inconsistency is just what I wanted to talk about as a implication, that we need to look at unified arts programming in the middle school. It's so varied. The kids are getting the same thing. They're just not experiencing the same thing at the same time. And some days or some years are one thing, and then the next year we had ag last year and no ag this year. And so we just need to keep that in our forefront. Other than that, that's all I have.
Unified arts required in middle school by PDE.
What did you say, Josh? I didn't hear you.
No.
Unified arts required in middle school by PDE.
Required? No. There's certain things that you have to do, like you have to have gym, you have to have certain things.
Okay. Gym is required.
Yeah.
Guidance is probably required.
Mm-hmm.
We set aside whether we think it's essential, not just something to think about, like I said, Mike earlier. mixing some electives in instead of 6 to be quite honest. Happy to hear whatever creative, innovative solutions.
Well, thank you, everybody, for your time. I know it was a long meeting, but appreciate all the feedback. We have some work to do on our end. We will come prepared in February with the high school plan moving forward.
There is no public here tonight for public comment. Well,
Newspaper.
Yeah.
You have anything to ask?
I think that
Sit here all
we
night
have
for nothing to ask?
stakeholder engagement from a lot of people, but I think we need to survey our parents/taxpayers that fulfill for all the decisions that we make. And our students, which I know, like Mike says, he knows these kids want 2 extra minutes to get to their classes, and he knows that they want more lunch. And I think we'll get a lot of things when we survey the students that are kind of things that we know, but what, okay. But my experience when we survey the community, when we were looking for a superintendent, is you're gonna get a lot of chaos and a lot of stuff that is not valuable, but the things that you do find that are valuable are extremely valuable. And we're asking them to sit here, and my conversation with a lot of administrators has been like, I don't want being a student here to be an exercise in perseverance until I can get to the ACE program or get somewhere else. Like, what do you want? Motivate a kid who's sitting out there. Here's your chance to have a voice. Here's your first opportunity to advocate for yourself. Take it. Like, what do you want to see while you're here? What do you want to do? What opportunities do you want to have? If I told you 9th grader who might be a motivated kid who's thinking about ACE, who's lost, I told you you can't do that until you get to this point. How is that going to negatively affect you? Do you have any idea? Do you have anything you would want me to think about that I might not be thinking about? And parents, like, do you feel like you know what you need to know? What are you missing? How could we get it to you differently? Do you want YouTube videos? Do you want everyone deletes email? Like, we try, but is there something that we haven't tried that we could try? And then to Brandon's point, like, I think whatever the answer that we come to is for like the district-wide big curriculum things, I think there does need to be a study. Was like literally the first question that I asked the superintendent that was here when I joined the board, because it was very apparent to me that we needed one. I see the value in an anonymous survey, but what I'll say is when we're asking questions like this that are really critical in a professional environment, from a professional to a professional, where I'm asking you for your professional opinion, which everybody values very much, put your name on it. And if you feel like you can't give an honest professional opinion to the administrator who supervises you, get on Jill's calendar, because you got something to talk about. Because there should be no teacher here that doesn't feel like they can give their professional opinion when asked for it, and give your administrator the opportunity to come talk to you and engage you about it. To me, that's just silly. That's silliness, and that's a scapegoat, and that's laziness, I think. So again, we need the teachers to be part of this. We want them to be part of this. But I think that the people who are going to be ultimately responsible for guiding this process and making it happen have to be able to engage with these people that are giving them the information that they're making the decisions for. And he first said to me in a phone call one time that every day of a middle schooler's life is like their Super Bowl, and it has stuck with me because it is so true. And I told Jill coming into this meeting is our Super Bowl. There are some of us who have been here for almost 6 years waiting for people to have this conversation with us.
For people to engage.
Yeah.
Right? Like for people to say yes or no or respond and not just sit there like a bump on the log.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like the back and forth. I mean, you saw a lot of emotion from me because this is the stuff that matters. Like all the other stuff that we do is necessary to keep the school functioning, to keep the kids safe. And we spend a huge amount of time on all the other stuff because all the other stuff could get somebody hurt or sued or XYZ. This is the whole reason we're here. And so I do not apologize for being animated or for having high expectations of everyone involved in executing this, right? And I renew my statement, like everyone who's a faculty member or a staff member here is an adult charged with the care of the kids here, charged with developing our children. And if you're doing something or seeing something that you think is wrong, and you aren't jumping up and down in your principal's office or in Jill's office if your principal isn't listening, or at a board meeting, then you shouldn't be here. You should find a new career. Because if you don't care enough to stick your neck out and make a ruckus when something is wrong, you should not be here taking care of the kids.
Thank you
And I
all.
don't think, I think most of our kids, most of our teachers do. I don't think it's a common problem.
Thank you. Thank you to all the administration.
Yeah,
This was
appreciate the effort
really,
put in here.
this was
Thank you.
very much appreciated. Josh is right. I've been here 5 years. We've never had this discussion, never. And the time, it's obvious the time you put in, so.
I do just want to echo that. Our admin team worked really, really hard on this. And there's a lot of work to do, and I think we know that. And I think we just have to do things strategically and plan it out. And we don't want to not, I think Josh, you said, we want to do it all at once, but we don't want to miss something when we're doing it. And we are on a time crunch right now to make things happen for scheduling purposes. So this might have to be something that is piecemealed out. I'm not saying we can't make huge change immediately. We can, and I will say we can make little changes immediately. Huge change is going to take time. And I agree with Bree, and Bree and I have already talked about this. We needed to have this meeting first. This will lead a lot of our questions for our survey because we got a lot of good feedback tonight. And then what does that survey look like? Because I've been racking my brain around what does that survey look like? Like what goes into a survey? I do agree with what you said about to the staff. We need to ask them to put their name on it at this point. They can go back and listen to this YouTube video that's out there and they can hear everything that we talked about tonight. But at the end of the day, we need to hear from them and not be afraid to put their name to it. I do feel that this administrative team is very supportive. We're not always going to agree, and that's okay. But I think that I don't think there's one person here that doesn't have an open door that you can't be heard. And so I think at the end of the day that I know that's my goal as a superintendent, and I want to hear what you have to say, and then we have to make good decisions. So we got board side of it at this point. I know we've talked to individual teachers. I know we've talked to certain leadership teams, but we need to continue to have those conversations because Drew brought up a good point here at the end of this was, we have to make sure that we're also considering every student's pathway. So the big question is, how do we know their pathway? And so you have to determine that before so some of this is we're putting the cart before the horse, just like we did MTSS completely backwards, in my opinion. We just got that rolling, but we didn't look at the tiered process. So it seems like a lot of situations that I've been in here since I've gotten here is we're jumping over a lot of steps to make something happen. So I think in this case with Henry and the high school and the schedule, we just have to make sure we're figuring that all out. And I don't know that finding a software program, Josh, to do this for this round of courses is going to happen like that.
It's too late.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know some of you.
The problem is, Jill, and I don't mean to cut you off. The problem is it's always too late. And then if we don't say we're doing it right now and make it a priority and it doesn't happen, now that's all because you weren't here. So now, so I'm willing to say, okay, and not.
So it's never too late, in other words.
Too late is what you're saying.
I'm willing to step back and
ACE is not the
trust that you will not just ignore it going forward. But in the past,
yeah,
that is why when there is a critical mass and everyone is behind it, that's why we put the cart before the horse, because otherwise the horse is gone until the cart even gets hooked up. Right? Like that's.
Got it.
Yeah.
You gotta run with the cart, and hook it to the horse while it goes by.
Steve to make that somehow. He already made
I'll make
a
a slogan.
slogan.
Yeah,
He made a slogan, so we'll have him make another one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See them with a mic drop.
We're done, Brian Davis. There's no public here.